Hello everyone and welcome. This is Black Magic speaking. We have handpicked a wonderful story for today. What if every basilisk in the world sensed Harry's Parseltongue at age 5 and swore loyalty to him as their king? New videos drop regularly, so subscribe and hit the bell to stay updated. And don't forget to like if you enjoy the story. Shall we begin? Here goes. Chapter 1, The King Awakens. Harry's knees hurt. They always hurt when Aunt Petunia made him weed the garden for hours. The July sun beat down on his back, sweat dripping from his messy black hair as he yanked stubborn dandelions from between her precious rosebushes. "Boy! You better have that entire bed finished before dinner," Petunia screeched from the kitchen window. "Yes, Aunt Petunia," Harry mumbled, not even looking up. At 5 years old, Harry Potter had already learned that arguing never helped. Neither did crying. Or asking questions. Especially questions about his parents, or the lightning-shaped scar on his forehead, or why strange things happened around him sometimes. Harry reached for another weed when something moved between the flowers. He froze. A small garden snake, emerald green with black diamond patterns, slithered through the mulch. "Hello," Harry whispered, not wanting to scare it away. He'd never had a pet, never had a friend. Maybe this snake would stay a while. The snake's head snapped up, beady eyes fixing on Harry with an intensity that seemed almost surprised. "You speak?" the snake hissed. Harry tumbled backward onto his bottom. "You talked," he gasped. The snake slithered closer. "A speaker, after so many years. How curious." Harry glanced nervously at the house. I can understand you." "Indeed, young master. You speak the noble tongue of serpents." The snake performed something like a bow, its sleek body forming a graceful curve. "I am honored to meet a true speaker." Before Harry could respond, Dudley's shadow fell across the garden. "Mom. Harry's talking to himself again. He's being a freak." The snake disappeared into the bushes as Aunt Petunia stormed outside, hauling Harry up by his arm and dragging him inside. "What have we told you about your abnormal behavior?" she hissed, shoving him toward his cupboard. "No dinner tonight." In. The door slammed shut, the lock clicking into place. Harry sat in the darkness, hugging his knees to his chest. "I talked to a snake," he whispered to himself. "Not a dream. Not make-believe." The snake had spoken, and Harry had understood. For the first time in his short, miserable life, Harry Potter smiled in the darkness. He wasn't just a freak. He was something special. That night, Harry dreamed. He stood in an enormous cavern, its ceiling disappearing into shadows. Massive columns carved with serpent stretched upward, their emerald eyes glittering in the dim light. The floor beneath his bare feet felt cool and smooth, like polished stone. "The air returns," whispered a voice, deep and ancient. Harry turned. From the shadows emerged a snake larger than he could comprehend. Its body, thick as a tree trunk, coiled endlessly into the darkness. Scales glinted like polished armor, and when it lowered its massive head to Harry's level, he found himself staring into eyes of molten gold. "What am I heir to?" Harry asked, surprised by his own boldness. The great serpent's tongue flicked out, tasting the air around Harry. "To the legacy of Slytherin. To the Covenant. To us." More shapes moved in the darkness, more massive serpentine forms. "The King Awakens." "I'm not a king," Harry said. "I'm just Harry. Just, nobody." The basilisk's laugh rumbled like distant thunder. "Oh, little heir. You know nothing of your power. But you will learn." The dream shifted. Harry stood in a different chamber now, smaller but no less magnificent. A man with sharp features and piercing green eyes sat upon a throne, speaking to dozens of basilisks in the same hissing language Harry had used with the garden snake. "Remember the covenant," the man said. "When my true heir returns, you shall know him by his heart as much as his tongue." Protect him. Guide him. For he shall restore what was lost. The scene dissolved, and Harry found himself back before the first great basilisk. We have waited centuries, it said. The pretender tried to command us, but we recognized his tainted soul. But your soul sings with the old magic. The time approaches, young king. What time? Harry asked. The basilisk leaned closer. The time when we come for you. Harry woke with a gasp, his cupboard impossibly dark after the vivid dream. His heart pounded, and his scar tingled strangely. Just a dream, he told himself. Just a weird dream about talking snakes. But deep down, Harry knew it was something more. 3 days later, Harry had almost convinced himself the garden snake had been his imagination. Almost. Except now he noticed snakes everywhere, in the garden, near the playground, even drawn to the schoolyard during recess. They never approached directly, just watched him with unnervingly intelligent eyes before slipping away. After school, Uncle Vernon forced him to clean the garage while Dudley watched cartoons inside. Harry dragged boxes around, sneezing from the dust, when he heard it. Young speaker. Harry spun around. Nothing there. Above you, young air. Harry looked up and nearly screamed. Draped across the garage's support beam was the largest snake he'd ever seen, at least 12 feet long, with scales the color of burnished copper. Its head was oddly shaped, with strange ridges above its eyes. What are you? Harry whispered in that special hissing language that felt increasingly natural on his tongue. A messenger, young king. Sat his approaches. Sat his. The snake's head bobbed. The eldest. The covenant keeper. He comes for you tonight. Harry's mouth went dry. Why? To begin your training. To fulfill the promise. I don't understand. The snake slithered partially down the wall, bringing its head closer to Harry. You are Parselmouth. Snake speaker. True heir of Slytherin's line. All serpents answer to your call, but we, the crowned ones, we are bound by ancient magic to serve the true heir. Crowned ones? The snake's body tensed slightly. Basilisks, young master. I am but a common python, a humble servant to the great ones. But Satyrs sensed your awakening. All basilisks did. And now they come. Harry's dream rushed back to him. The enormous snake with golden eyes. The covenant. The promise of protection. Tonight, he asked weakly. When the moon rises. Be ready, young king. The python slithered toward the garage door. And do not fear. No harm shall come to you ever again. With that promise hanging in the air, the massive snake disappeared through a gap beneath the garage door, leaving Harry alone with dust motes dancing in the afternoon sunlight and his world completely upended. Harry couldn't concentrate on dinner. Not that the Dursleys noticed, they rarely acknowledged his existence unless giving orders or punishments. Vernon complained about work. Dudley demanded more dessert. Petunia gossiped about neighbors. And Harry waited, heart thundering, for nightfall. Moonrise. That's what the python had said. When the moon rises, Satyrs would come. After being locked in his cupboard for the night, Harry pressed his ear to the door, listening as the Dursleys moved upstairs. Television sounds. Bathroom faucets. Creaking floorboards. Finally, silence descended on number 4, Privet Drive. Harry sat in darkness, knees hugged to his chest. What if it had been another dream? What if, the house shuddered? So subtle that Harry might have imagined it, except his toy soldiers toppled over on their shelf. Another tremor, stronger this time. Like something massive was moving beneath the foundation. A new sound reached his ears, a dry, sliding noise coming from outside. The scrape of scales against pavement. Harry's breath caught in his throat. It wasn't a dream. Something heavy bumped against the front door. Not a knock, more like a massive body leaning against it. Then silence. "Young heir," came a voice, but not through his ears. The words formed directly in Harry's mind, ancient and powerful. "Invite me in." Harry swallowed hard. "How?" he whispered in Parseltongue. "With your magic, child. Feel it within you. Will the barriers to fall?" Harry closed his eyes. He'd made strange things happen before, turning his teacher's wig blue, appearing suddenly on the school roof. But he'd never tried to make magic happen on purpose. "I don't know how," he admitted. "You do. The knowledge sleeps in your blood. Look inward, find the power, and release it. Command the wards to recognize me as friend, not foe." Harry tried. He really tried, searching inside himself for whatever this magic might feel like. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then he felt it, a warm current flowing beneath his skin, gathering at his fingertips and behind his eyes. It felt like sunshine and secret laughter and the satisfaction of finally being understood. "Let Satis enter," Harry hissed, letting the warmth flow outward from his body. "Friend, not enemy. Protector, not threat." Something snapped, not a physical sound, but a sensation like a bubble bursting. The air pressure changed, making Harry's ears pop. "Well done, young king." The mental voice sounded pleased. "Now, release yourself from this cupboard." The last word carried disgust. Harry touched the locked door, that same warmth flowing through him. The lock clicked open. Trembling with excitement and fear, Harry pushed the door open and crept into the darkened hallway. Moonlight spilled through the front windows, illuminating dust motes floating in silver beams. The house felt different, charged with potential, like the air before a thunderstorm. The front door swung open without a sound. And there, filling the doorway, was a nightmare made flesh. The serpent's head alone was nearly as large as Harry himself, covered in scales that shimmered between deepest green and black in the moonlight. A crown-like crest adorned its massive skull, and when it opened its mouth slightly, Harry glimpsed fangs longer than his forearm. But it was the eyes that transfixed him, huge, golden orbs with vertical pupils that seemed to glow from within. The exact eyes from his dream. "Satis," Harry whispered, somehow unafraid despite the creature's terrifying appearance. The enormous basilisk bowed its head. "My king." Harry stepped forward, drawn by an instinct he couldn't explain. He reached out one small hand and placed it against the basilisk's snout. The scales felt warm, vibrating slightly with each breath the great creature took. "You're real," Harry said, wonder filling his voice. "As are you, young heir. After centuries of waiting, you have awakened to your birthright." The basilisk's mental voice resonated with satisfaction. "But this place." Satis's head moved slightly, taking in the Desley home. "This prison is unworthy of you." "It's where I live," Harry said with a child's simple acceptance of unpleasant realities. "No longer," Satis replied, anger coloring the mental words. "These muggles have mistreated our king. This shall be rectified." Before Harry could ask what muggles meant, thundering footsteps came from upstairs. Uncle Vernon's voice boomed, "What's that noise down there? Boy, is that you?" Satis's body tensed, the crest on his head flaring wider. "Stay behind me, young heir." Vernon appeared at the top of the stairs in his pajamas, face already purple with rage. "Boy! How did you get out of?" The words died in his throat as he spotted the massive basilisk in his hallway. Vernon's face drained of all color, his mouth working soundlessly. "These are your captors?" Satis asked Harry, never taking his golden eyes from Vernon. "My aunt and uncle," Harry confirmed. They don't like me much." "Petunia." Vernon finally managed to scream. "Dudley. Stay upstairs." Satis slithered forward, his enormous body filling the hallway as he moved toward the stairs. Human, the basilisk projected, allowing Vernon to hear his mental voice. You stand before Satis, elder basilisk of the northern realms, covenant keeper to the line of Slytherin. And you have been keeping our king in a cupboard. Vernon's legs gave out. He sat heavily on the top stair, face ashen. What do you want? Take the boy. Take him and go. Satis made a sound like stones grinding together, a basilisk's laugh. Oh, we shall take our king. But first, we establish new rules. What's happening? Petunia appeared behind Vernon, then screamed at the sight of the enormous serpent. Dudley peeked out from his bedroom, took one look, and retreated with a wail. The boy's room, Satis commanded. He shall have a proper one. Now. The spare bedroom, Vernon stammered. He can have Dudley's second bedroom. His possessions. Where are they? Vernon pointed shakily toward the cupboard. Satis turned to Harry. Gather what belongs to you, young heir. Your life changes tonight. Harry didn't need telling twice. He darted back to the cupboard, scooping up his few broken toys, oversized hand-me-down clothes, and the baby blanket he'd had for as long as he could remember, the only thing he possessed from his parents. Everything fit in one small pillowcase. When he returned to the hallway, Satis regarded the pitiful bundle with narrowed eyes. The temperature in the hallway seemed to drop several degrees. These humans have failed in their sacred duty, the basilisk declared. Hear me, Muggle guardians. The boy shall have proper quarters, proper clothing, proper food. He shall not be struck, starved, or mistreated in any manner. Or what? Vernon found a shred of courage, clutching the banister. You're just a freak of nature. I'll call animal control. Faster than Harry could track, Satis lunged upward, bringing his massive head level with Vernon's face. The man scrambled backward, colliding with Petunia. Or I shall return with my kin, Satis said softly, deadly. I shall bring the full court of basilisks, and we shall make a meal of your flesh and bones. We shall consume your home and your possessions. Nothing will remain but dust. Vernon whimpered. Petunia fainted. Do we understand each other, human? Why yes, Vernon whispered. Excellent. Satis lowered his head, turning back to Harry. Show me this new room, young king. I shall inspect it. Harry led the way upstairs, stepping carefully around his unconscious aunt. Dudley's second bedroom was still filled with broken toys and abandoned games, but it had a bed. A real bed. It's perfect, Harry breathed, placing his pillowcase on the mattress. It is adequate for now, Satis corrected. Tomorrow night, I shall return with proper gifts. But first, we must begin your education. The basilisk coiled his massive body around the room's perimeter, creating a circle with Harry at its center. With the moonlight streaming through the window, casting the serpent's shadow across the walls, Harry sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes wide with anticipation. You are Harry Potter, Satis began. The boy who lived. But you are also the true heir of Slytherin, born with the gift of Parseltongue, the ability to speak with serpents. But my parents were James and Lily Potter, yes. But magic has its own patterns, its own mysteries. Somehow, Salazar Slytherin's gift awakened in you. And not merely the speech, the covenant as well. What covenant? Harry asked, leaning forward eagerly. Long ago, when Hogwarts was newly built, Salazar Slytherin made a pact with the first basilisks. We would serve and protect his true heirs, those worthy of the crown. Not merely those who could speak our tongue, but those pure of heart and purpose. But you are not just anything, Satis interrupted firmly. Magic recognized you as worthy. Every basilisk in the world felt your awakening 3 nights ago. We felt your call in our blood, in our magic. My dream, Harry whispered. That was real. The dream roads are where old magic travels most freely. Sathas's tongue flicked out, tasting the air around Harry. Your power is raw, unformed, but immense. Greater than I have sensed in centuries. Harry hugged his knees to his chest. But I don't know any magic. You will learn. I shall teach you what I know. The others will teach you their specialties when they arrive. Others? Harry's eyes widened. The court of basilisks. 13 of the eldest and most powerful of our kind. They journey here now, from the far corners of the world, to pledge themselves to you. Harry couldn't comprehend it. Yesterday, he'd been a nobody, the Dursleys' unwanted burden. Now an ancient, magical creature was calling him a king and saying more were coming. Why me? He asked finally. Cephas's golden eyes softened somehow. Because, young Harry, you have what the Pretender lacked, a capacity for love despite cruelty, for kindness despite hardship. Magic recognizes this worthiness. Pretender. The basilisk's body tensed slightly. Another Parselmouth. He who called himself Lord Voldemort. He commanded some of our kind through fear and domination, but we never recognized him as true heir. His soul was fractured. Harry touched his lightning scar unconsciously. Voldemort, he killed my parents. And tried to kill you, yes. Yet you survived what none before you had survived, the killing curse. Another sign of your worthiness. Harry sat in silence, absorbing this revelation. All his life, he'd been told his parents died in a car crash, that his scar was from that accident. Now he learned they'd been murdered by an evil wizard. What happens now? He asked finally. Now, you begin to claim your birthright. Not through domination, as the Pretender attempted, but through the ancient covenant, mutual respect and protection between basilisk kind and the true heir. Satis uncoiled slightly, bringing his massive head to Harry's level. Place your hand upon my crown, young king. Harry reached out, resting his small palm against the ridged crest atop the basilisk's head. Immediately, warmth flowed between them, the same magic Harry had felt when opening his cupboard door, but stronger, more focused. I, Satis, elder basilisk of the northern realms, pledge my magic, my wisdom, and my fong to Harry Potter, true heir of Slytherin. May our covenant be renewed in blood and magic, in wisdom and power. The warmth intensified, becoming a golden glow that surrounded Harry's hand and spread across Cephas's scales. Harry felt words rising to his lips, ancient words he somehow knew without being taught. I, Harry Potter, accept the pledge of Satis, elder basilisk. I promise to honor the covenant, to protect basilisk kind as they protect me, to learn the old ways and respect the balance of magic. The golden light flared brilliantly, then sank beneath the basilisk scales and into Harry's skin. For a moment, Harry thought he could see magic itself, golden threads connecting him to Satis, and beyond the basilisk, faint threads stretching outward to distant points all over the world. It is done, Satis said softly. The first bond is formed. The others will follow. Harry felt different, stronger somehow, more aware of his surroundings. He could sense the Dursleys downstairs, huddled together in fear. He could feel the neighborhood cats prowling outside, the night insects in the garden. I feel strange, Harry admitted. Your magic responds to the covenant. It grows stronger, more accessible. Cephas's tongue flicked out, tasting the air around Harry. Already you begin to change. Will I turn into a snake? Harry asked nervously. Satis made that strange grinding laugh again. No, young heir. But you gain certain affinities. Enhanced senses. Resistance to certain poisons and magics. The ability to sense deception. Can I do magic now? Real magic? You always could. Now you shall learn to control it. Satis uncoiled further, moving toward the window. Dawn approaches. I must go before the sun rises too high, basilisks prefer darkness and shadow. Harry felt a stab of panic. You're leaving. Only until nightfall. There is much to prepare. Sathas's golden eyes studied Harry intently. Your life has changed forever, Harry Potter. From this night forward, you are never truly alone. Any serpent will come to your aid if called. And I shall return tomorrow with the first of your court. What do I do until then? Harry gestured at the Dursleys' house. Test your new authority, Sathas suggested, amusement coloring his mental voice. Your relatives will not dare mistreat you now. And begin reading this. The basilisk's mouth opened, revealing rows of dagger-like teeth. From some hidden pocket beneath his tongue, Sathas produced a small, leather-bound book, dropping it gently onto Harry's bed. The journals of Salazar Slytherin himself, Sathas explained. Written in Parseltongue, so only a true speaker may read them. Begin your education, young king. Tomorrow, we continue your training. With surprising grace for a creature so massive, Sathas slithered through the bedroom window, his enormous body somehow fitting through the opening that should have been far too small. Magic, Harry realized. Everything was magic now. As the tip of the basilisk's tail disappeared into the night, Harry picked up the ancient journal with trembling hands. The leather cover felt warm, alive somehow. When he opened it, the strange symbols writhed like living snakes before settling into words he could somehow understand. My name is Salazar Slytherin, the first page began, and this is the true account of Hogwarts' founding, the Basilisk Covenant, and the magic only a Parselmouth may wield. Harry began to read as the first light of dawn crept through his new bedroom window. Breakfast was strange. Vernon and Petunia moved around the kitchen like sleepwalkers, jumping at small noises and casting terrified glances at Harry. Dudley, for once, seemed too shocked to bully his cousin, instead staring at Harry with a mixture of fear and confusion. More bacon, boy? Vernon asked, his voice unnaturally high. Yes, please, Harry said, watching with satisfaction as 3 more strips landed on his plate. For years, he'd been lucky to get Dudley's leftovers. Now he had a full plate, eggs, bacon, toast with jam, and a large glass of orange juice. The Dursleys didn't meet his eyes as he ate his fill for the first time in memory. I'll need some new clothes, Harry said casually, testing his new authority as Sathas had suggested. And school supplies. And my own bookshelf. Vernon's face twitched, but he nodded jerkily. Petunia will take you shopping today. And I don't think I should do all the chores anymore, Harry continued, growing bolder. Maybe just some. Dudley should do his share too. Dudley opened his mouth to protest, but one look from Petunia silenced him. That seems fair, she said faintly. Harry hid his smile behind his juice glass. Part of him felt guilty for enjoying their fear, but after years of mistreatment, he couldn't help savoring this reversal. Besides, he wasn't asking for anything unreasonable, just basic decency. After breakfast, Aunt Petunia drove him to the department store in silence. She bought him 3 sets of new clothes that actually fit, new trainers, pajamas, and even a jacket for the coming fall. Not once did she complain about the cost or make snide comments about his appearance. Thank you, Aunt Petunia, Harry said as they loaded the shopping bags into the car. She flinched slightly. You're welcome, she whispered, the words seeming to physically pain her. On the drive home, Harry gathered his courage. Aunt Petunia. Can I ask you something? Her knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. What? Did you know? About magic, I mean. About what I am. The car swerved slightly before Petunia regained control. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, so quietly Harry almost missed it, yes. And my parents? They were magical too. Lily was a witch. James was a wizard. They attended that school. Hogwarts? Harry asked, remembering what Sathas had told him. Petunia's face contorted as if the word physically hurt her. Yes. That place. And you hated them for it, Harry said. It wasn't a question. Petunia's eyes remained fixed on the road. I hated being ordinary while my sister was special. The simple honesty of her answer surprised Harry. He'd expected more denials, more evasions. Perhaps Cephas's visit had broken something fundamental in the Dursleys' wall of deception. I'm sorry, Harry said, though he wasn't entirely sure what he was apologizing for. Petunia shot him a confused glance. For what? That they made you take me when you didn't want me. That must have been hard. Something flickered across his aunt's face, pain, or possibly guilt. You were a baby. It wasn't your fault. They drove the rest of the way in silence, but something had shifted between them. Not forgiveness, exactly, but maybe the first crack in a wall of mutual resentment. When they arrived home, Harry helped carry his new clothes upstairs to his bedroom. He could hardly believe he had his own room now, with a real bed and a window that let in sunlight. Already, Dudley's broken toys had been pushed to one corner, making space for Harry's things. He spent the afternoon reading Slytherin's journal, absorbing centuries-old wisdom about Parselmouths, basilisks, and the founding of Hogwarts. The true history, not the sanitized version taught to most wizarding children. Salazar hadn't hated Muggleborns as the stories claimed. He'd feared them, feared they would bring witch-hunting parents to Hogwarts' doors. His solution had been wrong, excluding them entirely, but his fear hadn't been baseless in that violent era. And the Chamber of Secrets? Not built to purge the school, but to serve as a final sanctuary if the castle were overrun by witch-hunters. The basilisk within was meant as a guardian of last resort, not a weapon of first attack. Harry absorbed these revelations, his worldview expanding by the hour. When dinner came, he ate quietly, lost in thoughts about magical history and his own place within it. Night fell. The Dursleys retreated to their rooms early, clearly wanting to be safely behind locked doors before any more giant snakes appeared. Harry waited in his new bedroom, heart pounding with anticipation. Would Sathis return as promised? Would others come with him? The answer came just after midnight. Not from the window this time, but from beneath the house. The floor vibrated slightly, dust motes dancing in the air. Harry rushed to the window and peered into the backyard. The garden soil heaved and bulged, then parted as if split by an invisible force. Cethis's massive head emerged from the earth, followed by his enormous body. The basilisk had tunneled directly to Privet Drive. But Sathis wasn't alone. Behind him came another basilisk, smaller but still impressive, with scales the color of burnished gold and eyes like liquid amber. This one wore what looked like jewelry, golden bands around sections of its body, embedded with glittering gems. Young heir, Cethis's mental voice called. Come greet the second of your court. Harry raced downstairs and into the backyard, heedless of the dew soaking his new shoes. The two basilisks waited in the moonlight, their massive bodies making Aunt Petunia's prized garden look like a child's miniature play set. Sathis, Harry greeted, then turned to the newcomer. Hello. The golden basilisk lowered its head in a graceful bow. My king. I am Orlix, keeper of treasures, guardian of the Mediterranean depths. I come to pledge myself to your service and bring gifts worthy of the true heir. Harry approached carefully, placing his palm against Orlix's snout as he had with Sathis. I'm honored to meet you. The honor is mine, young king. For centuries, we awaited one worthy of the crown. The pretenders sought to command us through terror, but you called to us through the ancient magic. Through worthiness. Harry felt the now familiar warmth of magic flowing between them as they completed the formal pledge. Like with Sathis, golden light briefly surrounded them before sinking beneath skin and scales. I've brought you something, Orlix said once the pledge was complete. The golden basilisk's mouth opened, and from within emerged a small wooden chest, ornately carved with serpentine patterns. Harry accepted it with trembling hands. What is it? Open it, Orlix urged. Inside the chest lay a ring of gleaming silver, set with an emerald the size of a robin's egg. Carved into the stone was a serpent in the shape of an S. The signet of Salazar Slytherin himself, Aurelix explained. Lost for centuries, guarded in my hoard beneath the Mediterranean. It rightfully belongs to you now. Harry lifted the ring carefully. Despite being sized for an adult, when he slipped it onto his finger, it shrank to fit him perfectly. It recognizes you, Sathis observed. The magic accepts your claim. The ring felt warm against Harry's skin, pulsing gently with power. What does it do? It marks you as heir of Slytherin to those with eyes to see, Aurelix explained. It shields your mind from intrusion. And it serves as a focus for parcel magic, spells unique to snake speakers. Harry stared at the ring in wonder. Thank you, Aurelix. My gift is not yet complete, the golden basilisk said. Behold. From the tunnel entrance emerged half a dozen ordinary-looking snakes of various species and sizes. They slithered toward Harry, forming a semicircle at his feet. Your scouts and messengers, Aurelix explained. While basilisks must remain hidden from most human eyes, these smaller kin can move freely through the Muggle and Wizarding worlds alike. They shall be your eyes and ears. The snakes bowed their heads in unison. We serve the king, they hissed collectively. Harry knelt to their level. Thank you all. I promise to be worthy of your loyalty. Dawn approaches, Sathis observed. We must continue your education before we return to Shadow. For the next hour, in the moonlit garden of Privet Drive, Harry received his first proper lessons in controlling his magic. Sathis and Aurelix taught him to feel the power within himself, to direct it with intention rather than emotion. By the time the eastern sky began to lighten, Harry could reliably light a small flame in his palm, extinguish it at will, and levitate small garden stones. Wandless magic is difficult for most wizards, Aurelix observed. But for you, with basilisk magic bolstering your own, it comes more naturally. Will I still need a wand when I go to Hogwarts? Harry asked. Yes, Sathis answered. A wand focuses and amplifies magic. What takes significant effort wandlessly becomes effortless with the proper wand. But these skills will serve you well if you're ever wandless. As the first birds began their morning songs, the basilisks prepared to depart. Tomorrow night, Sathis promised, 2 more of your court shall arrive. Visira, mistress of poisons, and Cronax, master of battle magic. Will you stay longer next time? Harry asked, reluctant to see them go. Soon we shall establish a proper sanctuary, Aurelix assured him. A place where basilisks can dwell in comfort, shielded from the sun, and where you can visit freely. But for now, we must return to Shadow. Study the journal, Sathis instructed. Practice the breathing exercises. And remember, you are never truly alone now. Call any serpent, and they shall come to your aid. The basilisks retreated into the tunnel, the earth closing seamlessly behind them. Harry stood in the garden, dawn light painting the world in pale gold, the weight of Slytherin's ring a comforting presence on his finger. His scouts, the smaller snakes, had already dispersed, slithering into gardens and hedgerows to begin their surveillance of Little Whinging. Only a small emerald garden snake remained, curling around Harry's ankle in a gesture of loyalty. I'll call you Emerald, Harry told the little snake. Would you like to stay with me? It would be an honor, young king, the snake replied, slithering up his leg and settling around his waist beneath his shirt. With his first familiar secured and hidden, Harry returned to the house. The Dursleys were still asleep, unaware of the magical education that had just taken place in their garden. Harry climbed the stairs to his bedroom and reopened Slytherin's journal. There was so much to learn, so much history and magic to absorb. And tomorrow night, 2 more ancient basilisks would join his growing court. Harry Potter, the boy who lived, had become something more, the king of basilisks, the true heir of Slytherin. And the wizarding world had no idea what was coming. The next several weeks transformed Harry's life completely. Each night, more basilisks arrived, pledging themselves to him and bringing gifts from their ancient hoards, magical artifacts, books of forgotten spells, potions, ingredients thought extinct, and treasures beyond imagining. Visira, with scales black as midnight and eyes like frozen amber, taught him about poisons and their antidotes. Her gift was a set of crystal vials containing basilisk venom, freely given, the most powerful poison in the magical world, capable of destroying almost anything, including magical artifacts thought indestructible. Cronax, a battle-scarred basilisk with scales like burnished iron, instructed Harry in magical defense and combat strategy. His gift was an armband of silvery metal that could expand into a shield capable of deflecting most curses. Malastair, the dream speaker, with scales in shifting patterns of blue and purple, taught Harry to guard his mind and navigate the magical pathways of dreams. She gave him a dream catcher woven with her own shed skin, allowing him to control his dreams and receive messages from his basilisks even while sleeping. Zephyrine, mistress of winds, brought knowledge of weather magic and gave Harry a pendant that would always guide him home, no matter where in the world he might be. Each basilisk added their magic to Harry's growing power, strengthening the covenant with every pledge. By the end of summer, 12 of the 13 court basilisks had come to him, transforming the scared, malnourished boy into something approaching the king they called him. The Dursleys maintained a cautious distance, providing everything Harry needed without complaint. Vernon even drove him to London several times to visit museums and libraries, where Harry absorbed knowledge of the Muggle world to complement his magical education. Harry's scouts brought daily reports, neighborhood gossip, movement patterns of the neighbors, and eventually, news that wizards occasionally patrolled the area around Privet Drive. Harry learned to recognize them by their odd clothing choices and the wands they tried to keep hidden. Dumbledore's people, Satis explained when Harry reported this. Watching over you, though they have no idea you're aware of them. Should I be worried? Harry asked. Cautious, yes. Worried, no. Albus Dumbledore placed you with these muggles for protection, but also to control your upbringing. He intends you to enter the wizarding world ignorant of your heritage and desperate for guidance, his guidance. That seems manipulative, Harry observed. Indeed. Dumbledore plays a long game, young king. He is neither the saint some believe nor the villain others claim. He is simply a man with immense power and his own vision of what is right. What should I do when I meet him? Be respectful but reserved. Reveal only what serves your purpose. The ring will shield your mind from his probing, but he has other ways of gathering information. As July turned to August, Harry's physical appearance began to change. Regular meals and proper care, combined with the basilisk magic flowing through him, had erased the signs of malnutrition. He stood taller, his complexion healthier, his eyes brighter. His infamous scar had faded slightly, though it remained visible beneath his unruly hair. The final basilisk arrived on Harry's 6th birthday, a massive, ancient creature with pearlescent white scales that shimmered with rainbow hues in the moonlight. Nixarath, the eldest, guardian of the deepest secrets. Their meeting took place not at Privet Drive, but in a newly established sanctuary, an expanded cavern beneath an abandoned quarry outside Little Whinging. The court had spent weeks creating it, using their magic to carve chambers, strengthen walls, and enchant the space to be comfortable for both basilisks and their human king. The main chamber gleamed with crystals that provided soft light, comfortable enough for human eyes but not painful for light-sensitive basilisks. Smaller chambers branched off in all directions, some filled with pools of clear water, others with soft sand for resting, and one special room lined with bookshelves containing Harry's growing collection of magical tomes. Here, surrounded by all 13 members of his court, Harry met Nixarath. Young king, the white basilisk greeted, her mental voice carrying the weight of millennia. I have watched your progress from afar. You have exceeded even our highest hopes. Harry bowed respectfully. At Sathas's instruction, he wore formal robes of emerald green for this occasion, with Slytherin's signet ring prominently displayed. I'm honored to meet you, Nixarath, Harry replied. My teachers speak of you with great reverence. As well they should, the ancient basilisk replied with a hint of amusement. I remember the founding of Hogwarts. I knew Salazar Slytherin himself. And I bring you his final gift." From behind Nixarath emerged a procession of smaller serpents, carrying between them a long, narrow object wrapped in shimmering silver cloth. "Behold," Nixarath announced as the serpents laid their burden before Harry. "The staff of Salazar Slytherin." Harry unwrapped the cloth with trembling hands. Within lay a staff of dark wood, polished to a gleaming finish. Serpentine shapes were carved along its length, so detailed they seemed almost alive. The head of the staff featured a basilisk with emeralds for eyes, its mouth open as if to strike. "It has waited for a worthy heir," Nixarath explained. "Many have sought it, none have found it. Until now." Harry lifted the staff, surprised by how light it felt. The wood seemed to warm beneath his touch, the carved serpents rippling subtly against his palm. "What does it do?" he asked. "It amplifies your natural abilities. Enhances your connection to serpent kind. Focuses your parcel magic beyond what an ordinary wand could achieve." Nixarath's ancient eyes studied Harry carefully. "And it will grow with you, changing as you change, becoming what you need it to be." Harry felt the staff's magic resonating with his own, another thread in the tapestry of power being woven around him. "Thank you, Nixarath. I'll use it wisely." "See that you do," the white basilisk replied. "For great power brings great responsibility, and great danger. Already, your awakening sends ripples through the magical world. Already, those who would use you or destroy you take notice." "Voldemort," Harry said softly. "And others," Nixarath confirmed. "The pretender is weakened but not gone. He will seek to reclaim what he believes is his, the loyalty of basilisk kind, the legacy of Slytherin. And Dumbledore, he has his own plans for you, plans that may not align with your best interests. What should I do? For now. Learn. Grow stronger. When you enter Hogwarts, appear ordinary while developing your extraordinary gifts in secret." Harry nodded, determination filling him. "I won't let you down." "We know," Satis said, joining the conversation. "That is why we chose you, young king. Not because of your name or your scar or your defeat of the pretender. But because of your heart." The basilisk court surrounded Harry in a circle of massive, scaled bodies, a living wall of the most dangerous magical creatures in existence, all pledged to his protection and guidance. With the arrival of Nixarath, Satis announced, "Your court is complete. The covenant is fully renewed. From this night forward, Harry James Potter stands recognized as the true heir of Slytherin, king of basilisks, master of serpents." Magic swirled in the chamber, visible as golden threads connecting Harry to each basilisk. The staff in his hand pulsed with power, the emerald eyes of the carved basilisk glowing briefly. "And now," Nixarath said, "your true education begins." In a castle far to the north, Albus Dumbledore sat bolt upright in his office chair, disturbed from his late-night reading by a sudden, powerful magical surge. The silver instruments on his desk whirled and chimed in chaotic patterns, one of them emitting a high-pitched whistling before collapsing into a puddle of molten metal. "Impossible," the old wizard whispered, moving quickly to check the other monitoring devices. The ones tied to Harry Potter's location still functioned, showing him safely at Privet Drive. But those monitoring his magical signature had gone haywire, some showing readings off the scale, others simply failing altogether. "Fawkes," Dumbledore addressed his Phoenix companion, "something has changed. The boy's magic, it's transforming somehow." The Phoenix trilled softly, its black eyes reflecting the moonlight streaming through the tower windows. Dumbledore paced, his mind racing through possibilities. Had Voldemort somehow found a way to affect the boy from afar? Had some unknown magical creature or being made contact? Or was this simply the natural awakening of Harry's power, perhaps triggered early by stress or accidental magic? He would need to investigate personally, but carefully. The blood wards around Privet Drive would alert him to any dark presence, yet they reported nothing amiss. Whatever was happening to young Harry Potter, it wasn't registering as a threat. That, perhaps, worried Dumbledore most of all. "I think," he said finally, "it's time we increased our surveillance on Privet Drive. The boy may need more protection than we realized." As the old wizard penned urgent messages to his most trusted allies, he remained unaware of the small garden snake watching from a crack in the tower wall, one of Harry's scouts, dispatched to Hogwarts weeks earlier to monitor the castle and its headmaster. The serpent slithered away silently, carrying news back to its king about Dumbledore's growing concern and imminent actions. The chess game had begun, though only one player yet realized all the pieces were in motion. Miles away, in a forest in Albania, another wizard sensed the magical surge. Or rather, the twisted remnant of what had once been a wizard. The disembodied consciousness that was all that remained of Lord Voldemort seethed with rage and confusion. The magical signature was familiar yet changed, Potter's, undoubtedly, but altered in a way that stirred ancient memories and bitter jealousy. The Basilisks. They had chosen the boy. Voldemort had sought their allegiance for decades, commanding the few he could find through fear and dark magic. Yet they had resisted him, served him reluctantly if at all. And now, impossibly, they had given themselves willingly to a child. In the rotting body of the small woodland creature he currently possessed, Voldemort's rage manifested as a magical outburst that killed his host instantly. His spirit would need to find another temporary vessel soon. But first, he needed to accelerate his plans. The Potter boy was growing in power far too quickly. The Basilisks were teaching him, protecting him. Quirrell, the disembodied Dark Lord whispered to the night. "Find Quirrell. He seeks me even now." If he could not reclaim the Basilisks immediately, he would focus on another prize, the Philosopher's Stone. With a restored body, he could challenge the boy directly, prove his superior claim to Slytherin's legacy. The Basilisks would learn their mistake. The boy would die. And Lord Voldemort would claim his rightful place as heir to Salazar Slytherin's power. As Voldemort's consciousness drifted through the dark forest, seeking a new temporary host, he remained unaware of the adder watching from a nearby branch, another of Harry's scouts, sent to track rumors of the Dark Lord's spectral existence. The serpent slithered away, carrying crucial intelligence back to its young king. In his sanctuary beneath the abandoned quarry, surrounded by the most powerful basilisks in existence, 6-year-old Harry Potter received these reports and many others. With Slytherin's staff across his knees and the ancient ring on his finger, he listened, planned, and prepared. 5 years remained before he would officially enter the wizarding world as a Hogwarts student. 5 years to master his gifts, strengthen his allies, and ready himself for the challenges to come. 5 years to become worthy of the title his basilisks had bestowed upon him, the Serpent King. Chapter 2, Serpent Court. Albus Dumbledore wasn't a man easily surprised. When you've lived over a century and fought multiple Dark Lords, you develop a certain immunity to shock. But the sight of the boy sitting calmly in the Dursleys' living room nearly made him drop his half-moon spectacles. This couldn't be Harry Potter. The child he'd left on the doorstep 5 years ago had been small, undernourished, with only that lightning scar marking him as extraordinary. The boy before him sat with perfect posture in an armchair too large for his small frame, bright green eyes meeting Dumbledore's without a hint of intimidation. He looked healthy, confident, and somehow, aware. "Hello, Headmaster Dumbledore," Harry said before Vernon could finish the introductions. "I've been expecting you." Dumbledore's eyebrows rose slightly. "Have you indeed? And how would you know who I am, Harry?" The boy's smile was disarming. "The same way I know about Hogwarts, and magic, and why you left me with the Dursleys. I've been learning." Vernon and Petunia stood awkwardly by the sofa, looking like they'd rather be literally anywhere else. Dumbledore noticed they maintained a careful distance from their nephew, occasionally shooting him nervous glances. "I see." Dumbledore sat down across from Harry, studying him over steepled fingers. "And who has been teaching you, if I may ask?" Harry just smiled. "Friends. Very old friends who've been watching over me." The magical aura around the boy was unlike anything Dumbledore had encountered in a child so young. It pulsed with ancient power, reminding him of. No. Impossible. Your magical signature has changed dramatically, Dumbledore said carefully. That's why I'm here. The instruments monitoring your well-being showed concerning fluctuations. Harry nodded. I'm fine, as you can see. Better than fine, actually. Perhaps the boy's relatives could give us a moment alone. Dumbledore suggested. The Dursleys practically fled the room. Interesting. Once alone, Dumbledore leaned forward. Harry, I'm concerned about your safety. Has someone been visiting you? Someone magical? Harry tilted his head slightly. Headmaster, with all due respect, I know why you left me here. I know about the blood wards tied to Aunt Petunia. I know about my parents, about Voldemort, about my supposed destiny. Dumbledore felt a chill. The boy shouldn't know any of this. And I know, Harry continued calmly, that you intended for me to grow up isolated from the magical world, unaware of my heritage, so I'd be easier to guide when I finally received my Hogwarts letter. That's not, Dumbledore began. It's exactly true, Harry interrupted, his voice still polite but firm. And while I understand your intentions weren't malicious, I've chosen a different path. The headmaster's blue eyes narrowed slightly. Harry, you're very young. Whatever, or whoever, has been influencing you, has been helping me, Harry finished. The same way they've been helping true Parselmouths for centuries. Parselmouths. Dumbledore went very still. Harry extended his right hand, and Dumbledore noticed for the first time the silver ring with its emerald stone. Slytherin's signet. I believe, Harry said quietly, we need to renegotiate our arrangement, Headmaster. 3 hours later, Harry climbed into the back seat of Vernon's car with a sense of triumph. Beside him, Dumbledore settled in with surprising grace for such a tall man. You're certain about this, Harry? The headmaster asked, still seeming slightly dazed by the afternoon's revelations. Completely, Harry replied. I need access to the magical world before official school age. My education has already begun, and I require certain resources only available in places like Diagon Alley. Vernon started the car with a grunt, pointedly avoiding looking at either of them in the rearview mirror. The negotiations had been intense but productive. Harry had revealed enough about his Basilisk connections to convince Dumbledore of the seriousness of the situation, while keeping many details private. The headmaster had been predictably concerned, but also fascinated. The Basilisks chose you, Dumbledore had repeated, testing the concept. All of them. They recognized me as the true heir, Harry had explained. Not because of my bloodline, but because of compatibility. Worthiness, they call it. Now, heading toward London for Harry's first official visit to Diagon Alley, Dumbledore seemed lost in thought. The covenant between basilisks and certain Parselmouths is mentioned in only the most obscure historical texts, he said finally. Most dismissed it as legend. Most legends contain truth at their core, Harry replied. This one happens to be entirely factual. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled suddenly. You speak like someone far older than 6, Harry. I've had excellent teachers. Yes, I imagine basilisks accumulate considerable wisdom over their long lives. Dumbledore stroked his beard thoughtfully. I'm still concerned about the influence they might have over you. Harry shook his head. They serve and advise me, headmaster, not control me. The covenant works both ways, protection and knowledge in exchange for respect and advocacy. And what of Tom Riddle? He too was a Parselmouth. Voldemort commanded through fear and dark magic. The basilisks never recognized him as true heir. Harry looked out the window at passing suburbs. They called him the Pretender. Dumbledore's expression sharpened with interest. Fascinating distinction. And these basilisks, they're nearby. Harry smiled. Some are. Others travel. All answer when called. Including the one at Hogwarts. Harry met the old wizard's gaze steadily. Especially that one. Sarathia has been alone too long. The name made Dumbledore blink. You know the Chamber's Basilisk by name? I know all 13 court basilisks by name, ability, and temperament. They're individuals, not monsters. That's the first thing you need to understand if we're going to work together. And that's what you want. For us to work together. Harry nodded. Neither of us can defeat Voldemort alone. He'll return. My scouts have confirmed he exists as a wraith in Albania currently. When he comes back, we'll need to present a united front. Your scouts. Regular snakes who serve as my eyes and ears. They're less conspicuous than basilisks. Dumbledore shook his head in amazement. You've built quite the intelligence network for someone who just turned 6. Age is less relevant than willingness to learn, Harry replied. And ability to listen. The rest of the drive passed in thoughtful silence. By the time they reached London, Harry could practically hear the wheels turning in Dumbledore's mind, recalculating years of careful plans. Good. The headmaster needed to understand that Harry Potter wouldn't be his pawn. The leaky cauldron looked exactly as Satis had described it, an unremarkable pub that Muggle's eyes slid right past without noticing. Vernon had dropped them off nearby with obvious relief, promising to return in 3 hours. Ready, Harry? Dumbledore asked, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. Harry nodded, pulling his cap lower to cover his scar. They'd agreed to avoid drawing attention to his identity during this first visit. The moment they stepped inside, Harry felt it, the buzz of magic, different from the basilisk's ancient power but vibrant in its own way. Wizards and witches sat at scattered tables, drinking and chatting. A few nodded respectfully to Dumbledore, but most minded their own business. Except for the animals. An owl delivering mail suddenly veered off course, circling Harry's head before landing on his shoulder. A wizard's cat jumped from its owner's lap and rubbed against Harry's legs. From the corner, a witch's pet Kneazle stared at him with unblinking eyes. Interesting, Dumbledore murmured. Magical creatures sense the Basilisk Covenant, Harry explained quietly. They recognize me as something different. The barkeeper approached, shooing away the owl. Sorry about that. Tom's the name. Can I help you and the young man, Professor Dumbledore? Just passing through today, Tom, Dumbledore replied pleasantly. Taking young James here for his first visit to the alley. Harry appreciated the use of his middle name as a pseudonym. Less chance of recognition that way. They moved quickly through the bar to the back courtyard. Dumbledore tapped the bricks in sequence, and Harry watched in genuine delight as they rearranged themselves into an archway. Welcome, Harry, Dumbledore said softly, to Diagon Alley. Nothing his basilisks had told him prepared Harry for the sensory explosion of his first steps into Britain's premier magical shopping district. Colorful storefronts, oddly dressed witches and wizards, the smells of potions and magical food, the sounds of haggling and spellcasting, it was overwhelming and wonderful. Gringotts first, I think, Dumbledore suggested, guiding Harry toward the imposing white marble building at the far end of the alley. As they walked, Harry noticed the pattern from the leaky cauldron repeating itself. Magical pets strained at leashes to approach him. An apothecary's caged toads croaked in unison as they passed. Outside the magical menagerie, an enormous python pressed against the display glass, its tongue flicking rapidly. Keep moving, Harry whispered to it in Parseltongue. Don't draw attention. The python bobbed its head in acknowledgement and settled back into its display. Was that wise? Dumbledore asked quietly. Better than having it break the glass trying to reach me, Harry replied. The headmaster looked troubled but didn't comment further. Gringotts loomed before them, its burnished bronze doors gleaming in the sunlight. The goblin guard at the entrance stiffened as they approached, nostrils flaring as he caught Harry's scent. Greetings, honored goblin, Harry said formally, inclining his head. The goblin's eyes widened. Instead of the expected sarcastic greeting, he bowed deeply. "Welcome to Gringotts, Serpent King." Dumbledore's eyebrows rose dramatically. Inside, the pattern continued. Goblin tellers stopped their work to stare. Whispers and gobbledygook spread through the hall like wildfire. Before they could even approach a desk, an ancient goblin in an immaculate suit hurried toward them. "I am Ragnarok," he announced without preamble. "Director of Gringotts. You will come with me immediately." Dumbledore stepped forward. "Now see here, with respect, Headmaster Dumbledore," Ragnarok interrupted, "this matter concerns Gringotts and the Serpent King. Your presence is tolerated, not required." Harry touched Dumbledore's arm. "It's all right. I've been expecting something like this." "You have?" both Dumbledore and Ragnarok asked simultaneously. Harry nodded. "Basilisks and goblins have ancient agreements predating wizard banking." Nixarath explained it all. Ragnarok's breath caught. "You know the White Guardian by name? She still lives?" "Very much so. She sends her regards to the clever metal shapers." The goblin director looked like he might faint from excitement. "Please, this way." Immediately. They followed Ragnarok through ornate doors and down a series of increasingly opulent corridors until they reached an office that screamed importance. Gold fixtures, gemstone decorations, and ancient weapons adorned every surface. "Sit, please." Ragnarok snapped his fingers, and a third chair appeared for Dumbledore. "Tea." Before anyone could respond, an elaborate tea service materialized on the desk. "Now then," Ragnarok said, leaning forward eagerly, "you must understand this is unprecedented. The prophecies speak of the Serpent King's return, but after centuries, many thought it mere legend. What exactly does this title mean to goblins?" Dumbledore asked. Ragnarok shot him an irritated glance. "It means, Headmaster, that this young wizard has been recognized by the Basilisk court as their ruler. In goblin culture, this grants him special status above ordinary wizards." He turned to Harry. "You have Slytherin's signet. Do you possess the staff as well?" Harry nodded. "Nixarath presented it to me on my birthday. It's safely hidden." "Extraordinary." Ragnarok's eyes gleamed. "Then you must be shown the vault." "The Potter Vault?" Dumbledore asked. Ragnarok laughed, a sharp, barking sound. "No, Headmaster. The Slytherin Sovereign Vault. Sealed for a millennium, awaiting the true heir's return." Harry sat forward. Sat has mentioned this, but even he didn't know its contents. "No one does," Ragnarok confirmed. "It was sealed by Salazar himself, with instructions it be opened only by one who bears both signet and staff, and carries the blessing of the court." Dumbledore's expression turned cautious. "Perhaps we should proceed carefully. Harry is still very young, age is irrelevant," Ragnarok dismissed. "The magic has recognized him. The vault is his by right." Harry nodded. "I'd like to see it, please." The journey to the Slytherin vault was unlike anything Harry had experienced. They bypassed the traditional cart system, instead entering what Ragnarok called the ancient ways, tunnels that predated Gringotts itself, carved deep into the bedrock beneath London. These passages were created by goblins and basilisks working together, Ragnarok explained as they walked down a torchlit corridor. Before wizard-goblin relations soured. Basilisks helped build Gringotts? Dumbledore asked, visibly fascinated despite his concerns. The deepest vaults, yes. Their ability to sense precious metals and carve through stone made them valuable allies. Ragnarok glanced at Harry. A partnership the Serpent King might consider renewing. "I'm open to discussion once I understand my full inheritance," Harry replied diplomatically. They descended for what felt like hours, the air growing noticeably cooler and heavier with ancient magic. Finally, they reached a massive circular door carved with serpents. Unlike the ornate Potter vault door Harry would see years later, this entrance bore no keyhole, no handle, just an indentation in the center shaped like a hand. Only the true heir may open it, Ragnar explained, stepping back respectfully. Harry approached the door, feeling the magic pulsing from it like a heartbeat. Following instinct, he placed his right hand, bearing Slytherin's signet, against the indentation. "I am Harry James Potter," he announced in Parseltongue, recognized heir of Salazar Slytherin, King of Basilisks, holder of the Covenant. "I claim my inheritance." The stone serpents carved around the door's edge came alive, slithering in a circular pattern while remaining part of the stone. Their emerald eyes glowed as they studied Harry. "The blood is diluted," one stone serpent hissed, "but the magic recognizes its own. The covenant is renewed. The court has chosen." "The pretender failed this test," another stone serpent observed. "His soul was fractured, his heart corrupt." "This one is whole," a third agreed. "Young but worthy." As one, the stone serpents bowed their heads. "Welcome, heir of Slytherin." The massive door swung open silently, revealing a chamber that took Harry's breath away. Unlike the typical Gringotts vault filled with coins and valuables, the Slytherin sovereign vault resembled a massive library and laboratory combined. Bookshelves stretched toward the high ceiling, filled with ancient tomes. Glass cases displayed artifacts Harry couldn't begin to identify. Workbenches held equipment for potion making, enchanting, and other magical crafts Harry didn't recognize. At the center stood a raised dais with a throne-like chair, carved from a single piece of obsidian and inlaid with silver serpents. "By the founders," Dumbledore whispered, all caution momentarily forgotten in scholarly excitement. Ragnar remained at the threshold. "Only those of Slytherin's blood or blessing may enter. I must remain here." Harry stepped forward, drawn to the obsidian throne. As he approached, he noticed a pedestal beside it holding a sealed letter with his name written in elegant script. With trembling fingers, Harry broke the wax seal and unfolded the parchment. "To my true heir, if you read these words, you have been recognized by signet, staff, and covenant as worthy of my legacy. The basilisks have chosen you as they once chose me, not for power alone, but for the rarer qualities they prize, balance between ambition and compassion, between cunning and honor. The pretenders who claimed my name over centuries twisted my legacy, emphasizing blood purity over magical merit. No, this was never my intent. I valued cunning and ambition in all magical blood, not merely those of so-called pure lineage. What I opposed was bringing untrained magical children directly from Muggle families into our world without proper transition and protection, a valid concern in an era when witch burnings were common and Muggle parents often betrayed their magical offspring to clerics and executioners. My chamber at Hogwarts was created as a sanctuary of last resort, not a weapon of first attack. Its guardian was meant to protect, not hunt. This truth has been lost to time and deliberate misinterpretation. Within this vault lies the true history of my life and works, untainted by those who twisted my legacy to serve their prejudices. Study it well. Rebuild what was corrupted. The basilisks chose you because you have the potential to restore balance. The inheritance is threefold: knowledge in these archives, wealth in the connected treasure chamber, and power in the covenant with serpent kind. Use all three wisely. Remember, power without wisdom brings destruction. Ambition without compassion creates monsters. Cunning without honor builds nothing lasting. I await your judgment in history's pages. Salazar Slytherin. Harry lowered the letter, mind reeling from its implications. The Salazar described here differed dramatically from the bigoted founder portrayed in modern wizarding history. "Harry?" Dumbledore asked gently, approaching the dais. "May I ask what the letter contains?" Harry handed it to him without hesitation. This was information the headmaster needed to understand. Dumbledore's expression changed as he read, surprise, then thoughtfulness, then a kind of sad understanding. "History is written by the victors," he murmured, returning the letter. "And sometimes, even they get it wrong. This changes how we should approach everything," Harry said. "If Slytherin wasn't what everyone believes, then perhaps neither is his house, Dumbledore finished. Nor those who identify with its qualities. Harry nodded, looking around at the vast collection of knowledge surrounding them. I'll need time here. Lots of it. We can arrange regular visits, Dumbledore agreed, seeming to come to a decision. But Harry, we must proceed with caution. If word spreads about your status as Slytherin's heir, it would complicate things, Harry acknowledged. For now, this remains between us. And the goblins, Dumbledore added, glancing toward where Ragnarok waited at the entrance. Gringotts maintains absolute confidentiality for our most valuable clients, Ragnarok called, having apparently overheard. The Serpent King's secrets are secured by magic more binding than mere policy. Harry nodded gratefully, then turned to survey his inheritance once more. I'd like to take a few books today, if possible. And perhaps visit the Potter Vault briefly for some spending money. The visit to his family vault afterward felt almost mundane compared to the Slytherin chamber. Still, Harry appreciated seeing the more conventional wealth his parents had left him, taking a modest amount for shopping while leaving the bulk untouched. As they prepared to leave Gringotts, Ragnarok presented Harry with a special key. This grants you direct access to the Sovereign Vault without needing the ritual entrance, the director explained. Though only you can use it. Thank you, Harry replied, pocketing the key. May your gold always flow and your enemies tremble. Ragnarok's eyes widened at the traditional goblin farewell. And may your venom strike true, Serpent King. Dumbledore seemed deep in thought as they emerged into the sunlight of Diagon Alley. I believe, he said finally, I've underestimated both you and the situation, Harry. Most people underestimate 6-year-olds, Harry replied with a small smile. It's not entirely your fault. That startled a genuine laugh from the old wizard. Indeed. Well then, shall we continue your shopping? I imagine there are specific items your Basilisk friends have recommended. Harry nodded. Potions ingredients first. Visira, she's the mistress of poisons, has been teaching me basic brewing, but we need some rare components. The apothecary visit proved enlightening for both Harry and Dumbledore. The proprietor nearly fell over himself to assist once Harry quietly identified certain rare ingredients using their ancient Latin classifications rather than common names. The man kept shooting curious glances at the young boy who casually requested boomslang skin and bicorn horn with the confidence of a potions master. Advanced ingredients for one so young, he commented, wrapping their purchases. He shows remarkable aptitude, Dumbledore interjected smoothly. I'm providing special tutoring. Their next stop was Flourish and Blots, where Harry selected a careful mix of basic magical theory texts and more specialized books on magical creatures and defense. Building quite the library, Dumbledore observed. Knowledge is power, Harry replied simply. As they browsed the shelves, Harry noticed a family with a bushy-haired girl about his age. She was practically bouncing with excitement over a large book on magical theory. But Mummy, it explains the fundamental principles. Professor McGonagall said I should start learning early if I want to be prepared when I'm 11. Hermione, darling, that book is for much older students, Harry approached casually. It's a good choice, actually. Magical Theory by Adalbert Waffling is the foundation for understanding how spells work, not just memorizing incantations. The girl turned, surprised. Her parents, clearly muggles by their clothing and overwhelmed expressions, looked equally startled. You've read it? She asked skeptically, eyeing someone seemingly her own age. Parts of it, Harry admitted. The first few chapters are accessible if you're comfortable with advanced vocabulary. The later sections get more technical. The girl straightened, looking determined. I have the highest reading level in my class. Then you'll probably manage fine, Harry said with a smile. I'm Harry, by the way. Hermione Granger, she replied, extending her hand formally. Are you a wizard too? You seem awfully young to be shopping for school supplies. Special circumstances, Dumbledore interjected, appearing beside Harry. Young Harry here has shown early magical development requiring some preliminary education. Hermione's eyes widened at Dumbledore's impressive appearance. Are you a professor? Professor McGonagall said I couldn't start early no matter how much I wanted to. Headmaster, actually, Dumbledore replied kindly. And while Miss McGonagall was correct about formal attendance, there's no rule against preliminary reading and basic theoretical instruction. Hermione turned to her parents triumphantly. See? I told you. Mr. Granger laughed, extending his hand to Dumbledore. Richard Granger. This is my wife Jean. Our daughter has been rather enthusiastic since Professor McGonagall's visit last month. A common reaction to discovering one's magical heritage, Dumbledore assured them. Perhaps Harry could recommend a few appropriate starter texts. He's been on a similar journey. Harry spent the next 15 minutes helping Hermione select books that would challenge without overwhelming her. Her quick intelligence and earnest curiosity reminded him of himself, though without the weight of basilisk expectations and prophecy. Maybe we'll be in the same year at Hogwarts, Hermione said as they prepared to part ways. Maybe, Harry agreed, though he knew his educational path would be far from typical. As the Grangers moved toward the checkout counter, Hermione turned back suddenly. What house do you think you'll be in? I'm hoping for Gryffindor. Professor McGonagall said it's the best, though Ravenclaw sounds good too. Harry smiled slightly. I think I'm destined for Slytherin. Her face fell slightly. Oh. Professor McGonagall said that's where the dark wizards come from. Harry finished, keeping his tone light. That's a common misconception. Slytherin values ambition, cunning, and resourcefulness. Those aren't inherently dark traits. I suppose not, Hermione admitted, though she looked unconvinced. Don't worry, Harry told her. House rivalries aside, I have a feeling we'll be friends regardless. Her smile returned. I'd like that. I don't have many friends. Neither do I, Harry admitted, thinking of his basilisks. At least, not human ones. Before she could question that odd statement, her parents called her to complete their purchase. Making connections already, Dumbledore observed as they continued shopping. Miss Granger seems remarkably bright. She'll be important, Harry said with certainty. One of his scouts had reported witnessing her accidental magic months ago, books floating across her bedroom as she read in bed. The magic had been impressively controlled for an untrained witch. Their shopping continued through the afternoon, specialty quills from Scribulus, basic potion-making equipment from Potages, and various magical odds and ends Harry's basilisk teachers had requested. At the magical menagerie, Harry pretended to browse while discreetly conversing in Parseltongue with the various serpents. They provided valuable intelligence about recent wizarding events and rumors circulating among magical creatures. The giant colony in the north speaks of unrest among centaurs, a particularly well-informed boa constrictor reported. They read ill omens in the stars. Tell Sathis, Harry instructed quietly. He'll want to investigate. Just as they were preparing to leave the shop, Harry felt a tug on his consciousness, a sensation he'd come to recognize as a basilisk attempting long-distance communication. Young King, came the unfamiliar voice, rough and ancient with a distinctly different accent from his established court. I challenge your claim. Harry froze, drawing Dumbledore's attention. Harry? What's wrong? Nothing, Harry murmured, then switched to Parseltongue to respond to the mental intrusion. Who addresses me? Morgoth, elder basilisk of the Caledonian forest. Your covenant does not bind me, hatchling. I recognize no king without trial. Harry's heart raced. A challenge from an unknown basilisk, one not yet part of his court. Sathis had warned this might happen. What trial do you propose? Harry responded. Come north to my domain. Prove your worth through courage and wisdom. Or surrender your claim to the title of Serpent King. The mental connection broke abruptly, leaving Harry disoriented. Harry? Dumbledore's voice held genuine concern now. "We need to talk," Harry said quietly. "Somewhere private. There's a situation developing." Dumbledore nodded gravely. "The leaky cauldron. I'll secure a private room." "A Scottish basilisk is challenging your authority," Dumbledore repeated, pacing the small private dining room Tom had provided. "And you feel compelled to answer this challenge?" Harry nodded, picking at his shepherd's pie. "The covenant isn't universal yet. Some older basilisks, particularly those who've lived in isolation, require personal proof of worthiness." "It's far too dangerous," Dumbledore insisted. "You're 6 years old, Harry. Basilisk or no, I cannot allow you to travel to Scotland alone to face a potentially hostile magical creature." "I wouldn't be alone," Harry pointed out. "Satis and Nixarath would accompany me." "Even so, Headmaster," Harry interrupted gently, "this isn't a request for permission. It's information I'm sharing out of respect for our new partnership. The challenge must be answered, or my standing among all basilisks will be questioned." Dumbledore stopped pacing, studying Harry with those penetrating blue eyes. "You truly believe this is necessary?" "I know it is. Morgoth is testing me. His acceptance would bring the Scottish basilisks into the Covenant, expanding my intelligence network and protection." The headmaster sat heavily. "Then I shall accompany you." Harry blinked in surprise. "You want to come with me to meet a potentially hostile basilisk? If you're determined to go, better with additional protection." Dumbledore's expression became resolute. "Besides, I admit to scholarly curiosity about basilisk social structures and this covenant you describe." Harry considered the offer. Having Dumbledore present could complicate things, but might also prove useful. The headmaster's power was legendary, and Harry wasn't too proud to acknowledge that adult magical backup had advantages. "All right," he agreed finally. "But there are conditions. You must vow not to harm Morgoth regardless of his manner or appearance. Basilisks are naturally intimidating, but that doesn't make them evil. And you must allow me to face whatever trials he sets without interference." Dumbledore frowned. "I cannot promise to stand idle if your life is genuinely threatened." "The trial won't be lethal," Harry assured him. "Basilisks value their potential rulers too highly for that. But it will be challenging, and possibly frightening to observe." After further negotiation, they reached an agreement. Dumbledore would accompany Harry to Scotland the following weekend, with Satis and Nixarath meeting them there. The headmaster would observe but not interfere unless Harry's life was in immediate peril. "Your aunt and uncle will need an explanation for your absence," Dumbledore noted. Harry smiled slightly. "They'll accept whatever story keeps giant snakes away from their home." "You've changed them," Dumbledore observed. "They feared what they didn't understand. Now they fear what they understand all too well." Harry shrugged. "It's not ideal, but it's better than cupboards and starvation." Dumbledore winced at the casual reference to Harry's former mistreatment. "I owe you an apology for that, Harry. I knew they weren't the most loving guardians, but I never imagined." "It's past," Harry said simply. "I've moved beyond it. But I won't forget." The rest of their meal passed in discussions of practical arrangements. Uncle Vernon would be told Harry was attending a special weekend program for gifted children, technically true, if one considered gifted to mean Parselmouth recognized by ancient magical serpents as their rightful king. As they prepared to meet Vernon at the arranged pickup point, Dumbledore asked one final question. "Harry, when you face this Morgoth, what exactly do you expect the trial to entail?" Harry shouldered his packages, expression serious. "If it follows traditional patterns, a test of courage against my greatest fear, a test of wisdom through magical riddles, and a test of worthiness through direct magical challenge." "That sounds extraordinarily advanced for a child your age." "I'm not an ordinary child," Harry replied simply. "I haven't been since Voldemort marked me. Perhaps even before." Dumbledore had no answer to that. The Scottish Highlands stretched before them, wild and magnificent under a sky-threatening rain. Harry stood beside Dumbledore at the edge of the ancient Caledonian forest, feeling the old magic pulsing from the trees. "Are you certain this is the place?" Dumbledore asked, scanning the dense woods. Harry nodded. "Morgatha's territory begins here." "We'll be met," a rustle from the underbrush interrupted him. Both wizards tensed, but instead of a basilisk, a massive adder emerged, at least 3 times the size of an ordinary specimen. "Young speaker," the adder greeted Harry in Parseltongue. "Morgatha waits. Follow." Harry translated for Dumbledore's benefit, then they began their journey into the forest. The path grew increasingly difficult to discern as they ventured deeper, the trees more ancient and gnarled. Magical energy saturated everything, the soil beneath their feet, the air they breathed, even the sunlight filtering through the canopy. "This forest predates Hogwarts," Dumbledore noted softly. "Perhaps even Merlin himself. The magic here is primal." After nearly an hour's walk, they reached a massive clearing dominated by the ruins of what appeared to be a stone circle, megalithic structures similar to Stonehenge but smaller and more densely arranged. "Wait here," the adder instructed before disappearing into the underbrush. Moments later, the ground trembled. From between 2 fallen megaliths emerged the largest serpent Harry had ever encountered, dwarfing even Nixarath in size. Its scales were the deep green of ancient pine needles, mottled with patches of grey like lichen on stone. The crest upon its massive head resembled a crown of thorns, and its eyes, currently closed, were covered by semi-transparent membranes. "Morgath," Harry greeted in Parseltongue, stepping forward. Beside him, Dumbledore had gone very still, his hand not quite reaching for his wand but clearly ready to move in that direction. "The challenger approaches," Morgath responded, his mental voice rumbling like distant thunder. "Small in body but large in magic. We shall see if you are worthy, hatchling." Harry felt rather than heard the arrival of his own basilisks. Sadhis and Nixarath emerged from the forest on the opposite side of the clearing, their massive bodies moving with surprising grace between the ancient stones. "Greetings, forest brother," Nixarath addressed Morgath. "It has been centuries." "White Guardian," Morgath acknowledged. "You vouch for this, child?" "I do. As does the entire court." Morgath made a dismissive sound. "The court grows soft in its old age. I require proof, not endorsements." "Then set your trials," Harry interrupted, stepping forward. "I am ready." The Scottish basilisk's massive head lowered until it was level with Harry. Even with protective membranes covering its lethal gaze, the proximity of such a massive predator would have terrified any ordinary child. "3 trials, as tradition demands," Morgath declared. "Courage against fear. Wisdom against riddle. Power against challenge. Are you prepared, Harry Potter?" "I am," Harry replied without hesitation. "Then begin." The clearing darkened suddenly, though the sky remained visible above. Magic swirled around Harry, cutting him off from Dumbledore and his basilisks. "For courage," Morgatha's voice echoed, "you must face what you most fear." The air before Harry shimmered, then solidified into a scene from his nightmares, the Dursleys' cupboard, but impossibly smaller, closing in around him. Darkness. Suffocation. Abandonment. Then it changed. Vernon and Petunia stood over him, but their faces began to transform, features elongating, becoming serpentine. His basilisks, turning on him, rejecting him. "Unworthy," hissed Sathas's distorted image. "Pretender. False heir," Nixarath's apparition accused. Harry felt his chest constrict with panic. Intellectually, he knew this was an illusion, a test, but the fear felt viscerally real. "Alone again," sneered Oralix's phantom. "Abandoned. Unloved. Ordinary." Harry closed his eyes, centering himself using the meditation techniques Malastair had taught him. The illusion attacked his deepest fear, not death or pain, but rejection. Abandonment. returning to being just Harry, the unwanted burden. "This isn't real," he whispered. "It could be," the illusions taunted. "One mistake. One failure. And we leave you." Harry opened his eyes, facing the nightmarish versions of his basilisk court directly. "You're not them," he said firmly. "The real court knows worthiness isn't about perfection. It's about intention. Effort. Growth." He stepped forward, through the illusions rather than retreating. "I might fail. I might make mistakes. But I will never stop trying to be worthy of their trust." The apparitions wavered, then dissolved like mist in sunshine. "Courage demonstrated," Morgatha's voice acknowledged. "Not through fearlessness, but through facing fear with clear eyes." The darkness receded slightly, though Harry remained separated from his companions. "For wisdom," Morgoth continued, "answer 3 riddles of increasing difficulty. Fail any, and you fail the trial." 3 stone pedestals rose from the ground before Harry, each holding a different object, a silver chalice, a bronze key, and a glass orb filled with swirling mist. First riddle: I am taken from a mine, and shut in a wooden case, from which I am never released, yet I am used by almost every person. What am I? Harry studied the objects, considering. The answer seemed too obvious at first, which made him suspicious. A trap, perhaps. But sometimes the simple answer was correct. He touched the chalice, detecting subtle magic within. Pencil lead, he answered. Graphite from mines, encased in wood, never released though constantly used. The chalice glowed briefly, then transformed into graphite. Correct, Morgoth acknowledged. Second riddle: I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with wind. What am I? This one required more thought. Something bodiless that speaks, hears, and comes alive with wind. Harry's eyes were drawn to the key. Echo, he said finally. It speaks without a mouth, hears without ears, has no body, but comes alive with wind to carry sound. The key vibrated, then transformed into sound waves visible in the air before dissipating. Correct. Final riddle: I am the black child of a white father, a wingless bird, flying even to the clouds of heaven. I give birth to tears of mourning in pupils that meet me, even though there is no cause for grief, and at once on my birth I am dissolved into air. What am I? This was considerably more challenging. Harry stared at the glass orb, watching the mist swirl within. Black child of a white father, wingless bird flying to heaven, causing tears without grief, dissolving into air. The pieces clicked together suddenly. Smoke, Harry answered confidently. Born of white fire, black in color, rises like a wingless bird, irritates eyes causing tears without emotional grief, and dissolves into the air. The glass orb shattered, releasing a small puff of smoke that formed the shape of a serpent before dissipating. Wisdom demonstrated, Morgoth declared. Not through mere knowledge, but through application of logic and insight. The magical barrier separating Harry from the others thinned further, though still remained in place. He could now see Dumbledore watching with undisguised concern, and his basilisks observing proudly. For the final trial, Morgoth announced, power must be proven. Not merely possessed, but controlled. The clearing transformed around Harry. The stone circle became a perfect arena, with Harry at its center. From the ground rose 12 stone serpents, each as tall as Harry himself, arranged in a circle around him. Animate your guardians, Morgoth instructed. Then demonstrate your control by having them perform a synchronized defensive pattern. Harry stared at the stone serpents uncertainly. This was far beyond any magic he'd performed before. Animation charms were typically taught to 6th-year students at Hogwarts, not 6-year-old children. But the Basilisk Covenant had changed him. Harry could feel the ancient magic flowing through his blood, connecting him to something primordial and powerful. Taking a deep breath, Harry extended his hands toward the stone serpents. He closed his eyes, visualizing them moving as he desired, then spoke in Parseltongue, "Stone Guardians, I call you to life. Rise to defend your king." For a moment, nothing happened. Then a pulse of magic, emerald green and vibrant, flowed from Harry's outstretched hands into the stone figures. One by one, they began to move, stone joints grinding as they raised their heads and turned toward Harry. "Defend," Harry commanded, concentrating intensely. Circle formation, alternating strikes outward. The stone serpents began moving in perfect synchronization, forming a rotating circle around Harry with each serpent striking outward in sequence, creating a defensive barrier of stone fangs and coils. Sweat beaded on Harry's forehead from the effort of maintaining control over all 12 animated guardians simultaneously. His hands trembled slightly, but the pattern continued unbroken. Now, Morgatha's voice boomed, "Defend against actual threat." From the forest edge, rocks began hurtling toward Harry, first small ones, then increasingly larger stones. The animated serpents responded to his will without verbal commands now, intercepting the projectiles mid-air. Harry focused harder, his whole body beginning to glow with the same emerald energy that animated the stone guardians. As the barrage intensified, he found himself anticipating trajectories, guiding his serpents to precisely where threats would appear rather than where they already were. Time seemed to slow. Harry entered a state of perfect concentration, aware of everything around him while remaining utterly focused on his task. When a boulder the size of an armchair hurtled toward him, Harry didn't flinch. Instead, all 12 stone serpents moved in unison, forming a barrier that caught the massive rock and held it suspended above Harry's head. "Enough," Morgath declared. The stone serpents gently lowered the boulder to the ground beside Harry, then returned to their circular formation, awaiting further commands. Power demonstrated, the ancient basilisk acknowledged. Not through destruction, but through precise control and defensive application. The magical barriers dissolved completely. Harry swayed slightly from exertion, the animated serpents crumbling back to lifeless stone as his concentration broke. Dumbledore rushed forward, catching Harry before he could fall. "Extraordinary," the headmaster murmured, genuine awe in his voice. Sadhis and Nixarath approached as well, positioning themselves protectively on either side of Harry. "Has he satisfied your requirements, Forest Brother?" Nixarath asked Morgath. The Scottish basilisk's massive head lowered until it was level with Harry's exhausted form. Courage shone through facing fears honestly rather than fearlessness. Wisdom demonstrated through careful thought rather than mere cleverness. Power proven through control rather than raw force. Morgatha's mental voice carried a new note of respect. The old qualities. The true qualities. With surprising gentleness for such an enormous creature, Morgath touched his snout to Harry's forehead. "I, Morgath, Elder Basilisk of the Caledonian Forest, recognize Harry Potter as Serpent King and true heir of Slytherin. My territory and knowledge are yours. My allegiance is pledged." The by now familiar golden light of the Covenant surrounded them briefly before sinking beneath skin and scales. "Thank you," Harry said simply, still leaning against Dumbledore for support. "No, young king," Morgath replied. "I thank you. It has been lonely, these many centuries. The old covenant brought purpose to basilisk kind. Its renewal brings hope." Harry straightened, finding new strength. "The Scottish basilisks will be welcomed into the court. Your wisdom will be valued. My wisdom is yours, as is my territory." Morgatha's massive head turned slightly to acknowledge Dumbledore. "And I see you bring wizards into your confidence already. Bold. Necessary allies," Harry explained. "The coming conflicts will require cooperation across traditional boundaries." "Wise beyond your years," Morgath observed. "Rest now. The trials have drained you." Harry nodded gratefully as Dumbledore conjured a comfortable chair for him to rest in. As he recovered his strength, the basilisks conversed among themselves, occasionally including Dumbledore in their discussion. The headmaster, for his part, seemed to have moved from cautious concern to scholarly fascination. Harry watched as the old wizard carefully avoided direct eye contact with the basilisks while asking insightful questions about their history, magic, and relationship with wizardkind. "It seems," Dumbledore said eventually, rejoining Harry, "I have much to reconsider about magical history." "And about you, my boy." Harry smiled tiredly. "Welcome to my world, Headmaster." "Indeed." Dumbledore's blue eyes twinkled. "Though I must say, your demonstration during that final trial. I've never seen such wandless control from someone your age. Not even Tom Riddle showed such aptitude so young." "It's different," Harry explained. "My magic is augmented by the Covenant. Each basilisk who pledges to me adds their magical signature to my own. It's a symbiotic relationship, not domination like Voldemort attempted. Fascinating. And potentially significant for our future efforts against him." Dumbledore stroked his beard thoughtfully. "Which brings me to a proposal." Harry raised an eyebrow questioningly. "I believe we should formalize your magical education beyond what your basilisk friends can provide. Private tutoring, carefully selected instructors who can be trusted with discretion." "And who would report to you?" Harry noted, not accusingly but matter-of-factly. Dumbledore inclined his head, acknowledging the point. "I would certainly appreciate being kept informed. But the primary goal would be ensuring you receive balanced magical instruction. Basilisks, for all their wisdom, have different magical perspectives than wizards." Harry considered the offer. Additional training would be valuable, particularly in areas where basilisk knowledge had gaps. And keeping Dumbledore engaged as an ally rather than a potential obstacle made strategic sense. "I'd be interested," Harry agreed cautiously. "But I have conditions. First, any tutors must accept my basilisk teacher's continued involvement. Second, I retain final say over my educational priorities. And third, everything remains confidential, no ministry involvement." "Reasonable terms," Dumbledore agreed. "Though explaining your advanced abilities when you eventually arrive at Hogwarts will present challenges." Harry smiled slightly. "We have 5 years to develop a suitable cover story, Headmaster. I'm sure between us, we can craft something convincing." Their discussion was interrupted by Nixaratha's approach. "Young King, the day grows late. Morgoth has offered his underground chamber as temporary sanctuary while you recover your strength." Harry looked to Dumbledore. "Would you like to see a basilisk sanctuary, Headmaster?" "Few wizards have had the privilege." Dumbledore's eyes lit with scholarly interest. "I would be honored." Morgotha's sanctuary proved more primitive than the carefully constructed chambers Harry's court had created near Privet Drive, but impressive nonetheless. Massive underground caverns extended beneath the ancient stone circle, some natural and others clearly carved by basilisk power over centuries. The central chamber featured a pool of crystalline water fed by an underground spring, surrounded by smooth stone surfaces where basilisks could rest comfortably. Ancient carvings covered some walls, primitive representations of basilisks and humans working together. "These date from before Hogwarts," Morgoth explained as Harry examined the carvings. "When the Covenant was new, and basilisk kind worked openly with worthy wizards. Before fear turned to hatred," Nixarath added sadly. "A pattern repeated too often in magical history," Dumbledore observed, studying the carvings with evident fascination. "Misunderstanding leading to conflict, wisdom lost to prejudice. Which we now have opportunity to correct," Harry said. "Starting with creating a new primary sanctuary, one worthy of the full court." The basilisk's attention focused on him immediately. "You have a location in mind?" Satis asked. Harry nodded. "The Chamber of Secrets." Dumbledore looked startled. "Harry, that's the perfect solution," Harry interrupted confidently. "It was literally built to house a basilisk safely within Hogwarts. With modifications, it could accommodate visitors from the court while keeping Sarathia from her isolation. The castle is my domain as headmaster," Dumbledore pointed out, though his tone remained thoughtful rather than oppositional. Such a plan would require my approval. Which is why I'm discussing it now, Harry replied reasonably. Consider the strategic advantages, Headmaster. My Basilisk court housed safely within Hogwarts, providing additional protection for the school. Sarathia's knowledge of the castle's secrets accessible to us. A secure location for continuing my education when I officially begin attending. And where exactly is this chamber located? Dumbledore asked. It's been sought for centuries without success. Harry smiled slightly. The entrance is in the second-floor girls' bathroom. The sink with the snake carving opens when addressed in Parseltongue. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose dramatically. All this time, hiding in plain sight. Salazar appreciated irony, Nixarath commented. Hiding his greatest secret in the most overlooked location. The headmaster paced thoughtfully. There would need to be strict protocols. Safety measures. Controlled access. All achievable, Harry assured him. And the basilisks would agree to restrictions within the castle itself. Their primary movement would be through the existing tunnel system that connects the chamber to the outside world. Such tunnels exist. Dumbledore looked genuinely surprised. How else would a basilisk hunt? Satis asked practically. Sarathia hasn't left the chamber in centuries because she honors Slytherin's last command to guard the sanctuary. But the exit tunnels remain, though some may need clearing. The discussion continued for hours, with Harry mediating between Dumbledore's legitimate safety concerns and the basilisk's desire for a central gathering place. By evening, they'd reached a tentative agreement. Harry and Dumbledore would explore the chamber during the Christmas holiday, assess its condition, and determine what modifications would be needed to make it suitable as both sanctuary and educational space. This partnership grows increasingly complex, Dumbledore noted as they prepared to depart. When I arrived at Privet Drive, I never imagined I'd be negotiating basilisk housing arrangements within Hogwarts. Harry grinned. Life rarely follows our expectations, Headmaster. The wise adapt. Indeed they do. Dumbledore's expression turned serious. I must ask, Harry, what is your ultimate goal in all this? Beyond survival, beyond defeating Voldemort when he returns, what future do you envision? Harry considered the question carefully. Balance, he answered finally. Between wizard and magical creature. Between tradition and progress. Between houses at Hogwarts. So much magical conflict stems from unnecessary division. A worthy aspiration, Dumbledore acknowledged. Though perhaps more challenging than even basilisk taming. Nothing worth doing is easy, Harry replied. But with the right allies. He glanced meaningfully at both Dumbledore and the basilisks. The headmaster nodded, understanding the implied partnership. Indeed. Well then, shall we return to more mundane matters? Your uncle will be expecting us back in Little Whinging by nightfall. Harry bid farewell to the basilisks, promising to communicate through his dreams with updates on their plans. As he and Dumbledore prepared to apparate back to Surrey, Morgoth offered a final observation. The old wizard has his own plans for you, young king, the Scottish basilisk warned privately. He adjusts them now to accommodate your unexpected power, but never forget he plays a long game. I know, Harry replied in Parseltongue. But for now, our goals align. And I'd rather have Dumbledore as an ally than an obstacle. Wise, Morgoth acknowledged. Just remember, a basilisk may close its lethal eyes to avoid harming allies, but it never surrenders its fangs. With that cryptic warning echoing in his mind, Harry departed the ancient forest, hands securely in Dumbledore's as they disappeared with a crack of displaced air. The months following Harry's Scottish trial transformed his life in ways both obvious and subtle. True to his word, Dumbledore arranged for specialized tutors, trusted former Order of the Phoenix members sworn to secrecy about Harry's unusual abilities and education. Remus Lupin, despite his furry little problem, as the headmaster delicately phrased it, proved an exceptional teacher of magical theory and defense. His gentle manner and scholarly approach complemented the Basilisk's more instinctual teaching style. Andromeda Tonks, a healer with unconventional views on magical integration, taught Harry potions and basic healing spells. Her black family background gave her unique insights into old magic without the prejudices that typically accompanied such knowledge. Most surprising was Phileas Flitwick, who volunteered his holiday time to teach Harry charms and dueling. The part-goblin professor treated Harry's Basilisk connection as a fascinating academic curiosity rather than a dark affliction. Remarkable channeling technique, Flitwick commented during one lesson, watching Harry direct magical energy through Slytherin staff rather than a traditional wand. Reminiscent of ancient focal instruments rather than modern wand lore. More versatile, though less precise for standard spell work. The Basilisk Court continued Harry's parallel education in parselmagic, ancient rituals, and the lost arts known only to Serpent kind. The combination created a magical foundation unlike any other child's, neither purely light nor dark, but balanced between tradition and innovation. Harry's physical sanctuary expanded as well. With Dumbledore's reluctant permission and considerable magical assistance, the Basilisks extended their underground network to connect Harry's original sanctuary near Privet Drive with secure locations throughout Britain. These magically expanded chambers allowed the court to travel unseen, gathering intelligence and providing Harry with safe houses across the country. Through his growing network of Serpent spies, ordinary snakes loyal to the Serpent King, Harry developed an intelligence network that rivaled the Ministry's. His scouts watched key locations in both magical and Muggle worlds, reporting movements of suspected Death Eaters, unusual magical activity, and political developments. At Privet Drive, Harry maintained his cover as an ordinary, if unusually gifted, child. The Dursleys continued their cautious accommodation, providing for Harry's basic needs without complaint while maintaining emotional distance. It was a cold arrangement but functional, far better than his cupboard days. Vernon and Petunia never asked about Harry's weekend educational programs, or his frequent evening disappearances. As long as no giant snakes appeared in their home, they seemed content with their unspoken agreement, provide adequately for Harry, and their comfortable suburban life would continue undisturbed. Harry's 7th birthday arrived with little fanfare from the Dursleys, but his magical allies more than compensated. In his underground sanctuary, the Basilisk Court arranged a celebration that would have astounded the wizarding world had anyone witnessed it. 13 ancient basilisks gathered in the central chamber, surrounding Harry with their massive bodies while presenting gifts from their hoards, magical artifacts thought lost to time, books of forgotten spells, and treasures beyond price. Dumbledore attended briefly, bringing a practice wand, for public use, when needed, and several books from his personal collection. Remus contributed a hand-carved chess set with pieces shaped like magical creatures, including basilisks for the kings. Andromeda provided a comprehensive potions kit with ingredients even Snape would envy. Most touchingly, Hagrid, who'd been cautiously introduced to Harry's situation, sent a handmade flute and a birthday cake slightly lopsided but made with obvious affection. As Harry surveyed his growing circle of allies, human and basilisk alike, he felt a sense of purpose and belonging he'd never imagined possible in his cupboard days. "Your court grows beyond serpent kind," Nixarath observed approvingly. "Diversity of counsel brings wisdom of perspective. And complications," Satis added pragmatically. "More allies means more potential points of betrayal." Harry nodded, acknowledging both perspectives. "Balance in all things. Trust, but verify. That's why our intelligence network remains crucial." Indeed, that network had already proven its value. Harry's scouts had confirmed Voldemort's wraith-like existence in Albania, tracking his movements and monitoring his increasingly desperate attempts to find a suitable host body. Other serpents watched known Death Eaters who had avoided Azkaban, noting suspicious meetings and concerning patterns. One such pattern emerged during Harry's 7th year, increasing activity around Gringotts and whispers among goblins about enhanced security for a high-value vault. "Something important is being moved to Gringotts," Harry informed Dumbledore during one of their regular strategy sessions. "My sources can't identify the object, but the security precautions are extraordinary." Dumbledore's expression turned grave. "I believe I know what this concerns. Nicholas Flamel has agreed to move the Philosopher's Stone from his home to a more secure location, given certain concerns about its safety." "Flamel? The alchemist?" Harry's eyes widened. "The stone that creates the elixir of life and can transform any metal into gold." "The same. Nicholas is an old friend, and recent intelligence suggests Voldemort may be seeking the stone to restore his physical form." Harry paced thoughtfully. "Gringotts isn't secure enough. If Voldemort wants it badly enough, he'll find a way in." "I agree," Dumbledore said grimly. "Which is why I've suggested another location for ultimate safekeeping. Hogwarts," Harry concluded immediately. "Under your direct protection. With additional safeguards from trusted staff members." The headmaster studied Harry carefully. "I tell you this in confidence, understanding your unique position and resources may provide additional security layers." Harry nodded, already considering strategic implications. "My scouts will watch for any unusual activity around both Gringotts and Hogwarts. If Voldemort makes a move, we'll have warning." This collaboration exemplified their evolving partnership, Dumbledore gradually treating Harry less as a child to be protected and more as a unique strategic ally with valuable resources. As Harry approached his 8th birthday, an opportunity arose to test the Chamber of Secrets as a potential sanctuary. During Hogwarts summer holiday, when the castle stood nearly empty, Dumbledore arranged for Harry to visit secretly. Their exploration of the legendary chamber proved both fascinating and disturbing. The massive underground complex was far larger than even Slytherin's journal had suggested, with numerous side chambers and connecting tunnels extending in all directions. The main chamber itself, dominated by Slytherin's imposing statue, showed signs of neglect but remained structurally sound. And there, waiting with painful patience, they found Seraphia. The Hogwarts basilisk proved even larger than Morgoth, her scales a deep emerald with silver markings along her spine. Centuries of isolation had left her thin and weakened, but her eyes still glowed with intelligence when she raised her massive head to greet them. "Speaker," she hissed, her mental voice fragile with disuse. "After so long, a true heir returns." Harry approached without fear, placing his hand against her snout in the traditional greeting. "Seraphia, guardian of secrets. Your vigil honors the covenant." "I obeyed my last command," she replied simply. "To guard and preserve until the true heir returned." As Harry completed the formal covenant with Seraphia, Dumbledore watched with undisguised fascination, maintaining a respectful distance but absorbing every detail of the ancient ritual. Over the next several days, they worked to transform the chamber into a habitable sanctuary. House elves, sworn to secrecy and surprisingly comfortable around basilisks, helped clean centuries of debris. Expanded side chambers were converted into specialized areas, a library, potion brewing stations, and comfortable resting spaces for both human and basilisk visitors. Most importantly, the existing tunnel systems were cleared and mapped, creating safe passage for basilisks to enter and exit without traveling through the school proper. These tunnels, some natural, others created by Slytherin himself, extended beyond Hogwarts grounds into the Forbidden Forest and even as far as Hogsmeade. A remarkable feat of magical engineering, Dumbledore observed, examining the ancient tunnel network. Salazar's reputation as a brilliant magical architect seems well-deserved. "He built this as a sanctuary and repository of knowledge," Harry explained, "not as a weapon against Muggleborns as history suggests." "History is written by the victors," Dumbledore noted, echoing his earlier observation. "Perhaps it's time for some historical reassessment." By Harry's 9th birthday, the Chamber of Secrets had been fully transformed into the primary sanctuary for his basilisk court. Seraphia, restored to health through proper feeding and basilisk healing magic, presided as guardian while other court members traveled between this central location and their traditional territories. The intelligence gathered through this expanded network proved invaluable. Harry's scouts confirmed Voldemort had possessed a succession of animals in Albania while seeking a more permanent solution to his bodiless state. They tracked Death Eater movements, ministerial politics, and international developments that might impact the coming conflict. Most concerning were reports that Quirinus Quirrell, Hogwarts Muggle Studies professor, had taken a sabbatical to gain practical experience and was traveling through Eastern Europe on a path that would eventually lead to Albania. A possible vessel, Harry suggested during a strategy session with Dumbledore. We should watch him carefully when he returns. The headmaster nodded grimly. I'll ensure he's assigned a position where I can monitor him closely. Defense against the dark arts would be ideal, Harry noted. The position's curse would limit Voldemort's time at Hogwarts even if he succeeded in possessing Quirrell. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. You know about the curse. Basilisk sense old magic, Harry explained. Sarathia has felt it for decades, Tom Riddle's vindictive parting gift when you denied him the teaching position. Such insights exemplified the value of Harry's unique perspective and resources. While Dumbledore had suspected the Dada position was cursed, confirmation through Basilisk magical senses provided certainty. As Harry's official Hogwarts attendance approached, they refined their cover story. The world would see Harry Potter as a normatively talented first-year student, perhaps slightly advanced due to his famous history but otherwise unremarkable. His Parseltongue ability and Basilisk connections would remain strictly secret, known only to a trusted few. To maintain this cover, Harry practiced using a standard wand for public spellcasting while continuing his staff-focused training in private. He studied standard first-year materials alongside his advanced education to ensure he could perform at an appropriate level without drawing undue attention. By his 11th birthday, Harry Potter had become something extraordinary, a child in body but with knowledge, power, and resources exceeding many adult wizards. His Basilisk court now numbered 23 members, including 10 who had joined following Morgatha's acceptance. His human allies included key Order of the Phoenix members, carefully selected professors, and strategic contacts in both magical and mundane worlds. Yet publicly, he remained simply the boy who lived, famous for something he couldn't remember, expected to arrive at Hogwarts wide-eyed and ignorant of his heritage. That carefully constructed image was precisely what Harry was considering when Hagrid, officially, arrived at the Dursleys to deliver his Hogwarts letter, a piece of theatre arranged with Dumbledore to maintain their cover story. Harry Potter. Hagrid boomed with convincing enthusiasm, despite having secretly visited Harry's sanctuary numerous times. Last time I saw ya, you was only a baby. Harry played his role perfectly, surprised but eager, curious about the magical world, appropriately awed by tales of his parents and his own fame. The trip to Diagon Alley, officially Harry's first visit, proceeded according to script. Hagrid introduced him to the wizarding world with genuine warmth, explaining basic concepts Harry had mastered years earlier. Harry asked appropriate questions, showed suitable amazement, and generally behaved like any Muggle-raised child discovering magic for the first time. At Ollivander's, Harry selected a standard holly and phoenix feather wand for public use, coincidentally, or perhaps not, sharing a core with Voldemort's wand. The wand maker's cryptic comments about great things aligned perfectly with the narrative expected for the boy who lived. Only once, when meeting Draco Malfoy at Madame Malkin's, did Harry nearly break character. The blonde boy's casual prejudice triggered a flash of genuine irritation that Harry quickly masked behind naive confusion. I don't think there's a witch or wizard who went bad who wasn't in Slytherin, Draco had declared pompously. Harry had nearly retorted with statistics on dark wizards from each house before catching himself. Instead, he'd simply looked thoughtful and changed the subject. The most challenging performance came at Gringotts, where the goblins recognized him instantly as the Serpent King despite his attempt to appear as an ordinary first year. Ragnarok himself had appeared, bowing subtly before Harry while maintaining the pretense of a standard new student visit. Your other accounts remain secure, the director had murmured while Hagrid was distracted. Available whenever needed. Through it all, Harry maintained his cover flawlessly, compartmentalizing his true knowledge and abilities behind careful occlumency shields taught by both Nixarath and Dumbledore. The night before September 1st, Harry made a final visit to his original sanctuary near Privet Drive. The Basilisk court gathered to strategize for the coming school year. Sarathia reports the stone has arrived at Hogwarts, Sat has informed the group. Secured behind multiple magical protections on the 3rd floor. And Quirrell? Harry asked. Returned from Albania, Nixarath confirmed grimly. Changed. My scout sensed 2 magical signatures within one body. It's happening, then, Harry sighed. Voldemort has found his host. The first move in a longer game, Morgoth predicted. Even with the stone, his restoration would be incomplete. He seeks more permanent solutions. Which will deny him, Harry said firmly. But carefully. I need to appear as an ordinary first year, talented perhaps, but nothing extraordinary. If Voldemort suspects my true abilities or connections, he'll change tactics. The Basilisks nodded in agreement. They'd extensively discussed this strategy. Allowing Voldemort to believe Harry was merely a lucky child with minimal training would encourage the Dark Lord to underestimate his opponent. Remember, Harry continued, regular communication through our secured channels only. No basilisks appearing in the castle except in absolute emergency. Sarathia remains in the chamber unless called. And your human allies? Aurelix inquired. Dumbledore knows the full plan. McGonagall, Flitwick, and Snape know partial truths, enough to assist if needed without compromising operational security. Snape's loyalties remain complex, Basira warned. My venom analysis of his magic shows dual bindings, one to Dumbledore, one to something deeper. My mother, Harry clarified. Dumbledore believes his ultimate loyalty is to her memory, but will maintain appropriate caution. As the strategy session concluded, Harry found himself alone with Satis, his first basilisk ally and closest non-human friend. You've grown beyond our expectations, the ancient serpent observed. When I found you in that garden 5 years ago, I saw potential. Now I see fulfillment. I couldn't have done it without you, Harry replied honestly. Without any of you. True partnership creates something greater than its individual parts, Satis acknowledged. But never doubt your own worthiness, young king. The basilisks chose you for reasons beyond circumstance or prophecy. Harry smiled, placing his hand on the massive serpent's snout in their familiar greeting. I'll make you proud. You already have, Satis replied simply. Now go change the world. Platform 9 3/4 bustled with activity as Harry pushed his trolley through the barrier, carefully projecting the wide-eyed wonder expected from a muggle-raised first year. Inside, he carefully noted familiar faces, the Weasleys with their distinctive red hair, Augusta Longbottom with her vulture hat, and various families of both Death Eater and Order connections. His scouts had identified most of these players years ago, but seeing them in person provided valuable confirmation. Harry spotted Lucius Malfoy saying goodbye to Draco, the elder Malfoy's left forearm concealed despite the warm September day. Nearby, Amelia Bones hugged her niece Susan, the head of magical law enforcement scanning the crowd with professional wariness. Harry maintained his cover perfectly, appearing slightly overwhelmed by the magnificent scarlet engine and the bustling magical platform. He allowed himself to be helped by the Weasley twins with his trunk, thanked them politely, and found an empty compartment where he could observe without being obvious. The first test of his acting skills came when Ron Weasley appeared, asking to share the compartment. Harry welcomed him with genuine warmth. His scouts had reported favorably on the Weasley family's fundamental decency despite their financial limitations. Their conversation flowed naturally, with Harry asking appropriate questions about magical upbringing while appearing suitably impressed by Ron's casual knowledge. When Ron mentioned Quidditch, Harry showed interest without revealing he'd been receiving private flying lessons from Madame Hooch for 2 years. The compartment door slid open again, revealing Hermione Granger, the same bushy-haired girl Harry had met in Flourish and Blotts years earlier, though she showed no sign of recognizing him. Has anyone seen a toad? A boy named Neville's lost one, she announced. No, sorry, Harry replied. Have you tried asking the prefects? They might know a summoning charm. Hermione's eyes lit up. That's actually a good idea. I've only tried basic spells myself, but they work for me. She demonstrated a simple reparo on Ron's chipped wand case, then introduced herself properly. I know all about you, of course, she told Harry after spotting his scar. I got a few extra books for background reading, and you're in modern magical history, the rise and fall of the dark arts, and great wizarding events of the 20th century. I wouldn't believe everything you read, Harry replied with a small smile. Most of those accounts are speculative at best. No one really knows what happened that night except Voldemort and me, and I was too young to remember details. Hermione and Ron both flinched at the name, giving Harry an opportunity to appear confused by their reaction, maintaining his cover as someone unaware of wizarding taboos. Their conversation continued amicably until Draco Malfoy made his appearance, flanked by Crabbe and Goyle. The confrontation proceeded much as Harry's scouts had predicted, Draco offering friendship based on Harry's fame while insulting Ron's family. Harry declined the offer diplomatically, careful not to make an outright enemy but establishing clear boundaries. Creating unnecessary antagonism served no strategic purpose, especially given the Malfoys' political connections. As they neared Hogwarts and changed into their robes, Harry felt a familiar presence touch his mind, Sarathia, sensing his approach to the castle. "Welcome home, young king," the ancient basilisk greeted mentally. "The chamber awaits your return." Harry sent back wordless acknowledgement, maintaining his external conversation with Ron without missing a beat. Years of practice had made such compartmentalization second nature. When the train finally stopped at Hogsmeade Station, Harry joined the other first-years following Hagrid to the boats. The sight of Hogwarts Castle rising majestically above the lake genuinely moved him despite his previous secret visits. There was something special about approaching it officially as a student, knowing he would now openly be part of the ancient institution. The sorting ceremony approached, and with it, the next phase of Harry's carefully orchestrated introduction to the wizarding world. As he waited with the other nervous first-years, Harry sensed the powerful magic of the castle welcoming him, not just as a student, but as something more. The heir had truly returned to Hogwarts. And beneath the ancient stones, in the chamber few knew existed, the Basilisk court prepared to support their king through whatever challenges awaited. The game had begun in earnest. Voldemort lurked somewhere in the castle, disguised as the stuttering Professor Quirrell. The Philosopher's Stone sat hidden behind magical protections. And Harry Potter, appearing to all the world as an ordinary first year, carried secrets that would reshape the coming conflict. The Serpent King had come to claim his kingdom. Chapter 3, The Chamber's Secret. The sorting hat barely touched Harry's head before it started muttering. "Interesting, very interesting. You've already found your house, haven't you, Serpent King?" Harry kept his expression neutral while responding mentally. "I have my preferences." "Preferences? Ha! I see the truth in your mind, despite those impressive shields. The basilisks chose well." The hat chuckled. "You could flourish in any house with your courage, intelligence, loyalty, and ambition. But your path is clear." "Gryffindor," the hat announced to the Great Hall. The Gryffindor table erupted in cheers. The Weasley twins chanted, "We got Potter. We got Potter." Harry grinned and joined his new house, accepting handshakes and congratulations while inwardly reflecting on the hat's words. The decision had been strategic. While Harry might have naturally fit in Slytherin given his abilities and connections, appearing in Gryffindor served multiple purposes: maintaining his cover as the boy who lived, avoiding immediate suspicion from Quirrell/Voldemort, and positioning himself to build alliances across traditional house boundaries. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled knowingly as they briefly met Harry's across the Great Hall. Their plan was proceeding perfectly. As the feast appeared, Harry chatted easily with his new housemates. He answered questions about his Muggle upbringing with carefully edited truths, deflected fame-related comments with modest humor, and gathered information through seemingly casual conversation. "That's Professor Quirrell talking to Professor Snape," Percy Weasley explained when Harry asked about the faculty. "Teaches defense against the dark arts now, though he used to do Muggle studies." Something happened during his sabbatical year, came back with that turban and a nervous stutter. Brilliant mind, they say, but practically afraid of his own shadow now. Harry studied Quirrell carefully without appearing to stare. His basilisk-enhanced senses detected the dual magical signature Nixarath had described, Quirrell's native magic overlaid with something darker, parasitic. The turban concealed more than a fashion statement. A sharp pain lanced through Harry's scar when Quirrell glanced his way. He controlled his reaction to a slight wince, but it confirmed his suspicions. Voldemort was watching. Life as a first-year Gryffindor required constant compartmentalization. By day, Harry maintained his cover as a moderately talented newcomer to magic, performing well in classes but deliberately making small mistakes to avoid appearing too advanced. He built friendships with Ron, Hermione, and other classmates, participated in typical student activities, and gave everyone exactly what they expected from the boy who lived. By night, his real work continued. His connection to Sarathia allowed him to navigate the castle undetected after curfew. The ancient basilisk's knowledge of Hogwarts secrets, passages unknown even to the Weasley twins' Marauder's map, provided perfect covert movement. Harry regularly visited the Chamber of Secrets through multiple hidden entrances, using it as his base of operations and meeting place for his basilisk court. 3 weeks into term, Harry sat in the chamber's newly renovated library section, surrounded by his core basilisk advisors and a mountain of ancient texts. Quirrell makes his move tonight, Harry informed them, referencing reports from his snake scout's position throughout the castle. He released a mountain troll as diversion to attempt accessing the third-floor corridor. Yet you choose not to intervene directly, Nixarath observed, her massive white form coiled comfortably on the heated stone platform designed for basilisk comfort. Direct intervention would reveal too much, Harry explained, absently stroking Emerald, who had grown from a garden snake to a respectable 3 feet long. Dumbledore knows my capabilities but believes I should maintain my cover. I agree, strategically speaking. The stone is adequately protected? Satis asked. Harry nodded. Multiple layers of security from different professors, culminating in Dumbledore's Mirror of Erased Enchantment. Clever work, the stone can only be retrieved by someone who wants to find it but not use it. Which eliminates Quirrell and his parasite, Morgoth concluded, his ancient voice rumbling through the chamber. But this is merely the opening gambit. The Pretender has other paths to restoration. Precisely why I'm researching these, Harry said, gesturing to the text spread before him, ancient tomes on magical possession, soul magic, and resurrection rituals. Voldemort's current strategy relies on the stone, but he'll have contingencies. Harry had spent months studying Voldemort's past through Basilisk intelligence networks, Dumbledore's carefully shared information, and Slytherin's extensive archives. The picture emerging disturbed him deeply. His magical signature feels, fragmented, Sarathia observed from her position near the chamber entrance. As Hogwarts' resident basilisk for centuries, she was particularly sensitive to magical disturbances within the castle. Unlike any wizard I've encountered in 1,000 years. That's because he's done something few wizards would dare, Harry said grimly, opening a particularly ancient text written in Parseltongue. Horcruxes. The basilisks hissed collectively in disgust and alarm. Multiple? Aurelix asked, horrified. That explains why the Covenant rejected him. Soul fracturing is anathema to basilisk magic. I believe so, based on the evidence. His wraith survived when his body was destroyed. His magical signature reads as incomplete to your senses. His desperation for a body rather than simple healing. Harry closed the book with a sigh. The question is, how many, and where? This changes our strategic approach, Satis noted. Destroying his current manifestation is meaningless without addressing these soul anchors. Exactly. Which is why I'm allowing events to unfold somewhat naturally this year. We observe, gather intelligence, and prepare for the longer war while appearing to focus on immediate threats. Their discussion continued late into the night, with Harry eventually returning to Gryffindor Tower through a passage that emerged behind a tapestry on the 3rd floor, conveniently avoiding both Filch and Mrs. Norris, who gave Harry a wide berth anyway due to his basilisk scent. "Harry, are you feeling all right?" Hermione asked during breakfast the next morning. "You look tired." "Just stayed up too late reading," Harry replied truthfully, if incompletely. "Reading? You?" Ron laughed, spraying toast crumbs. "Who are you and what have you done with Harry Potter?" Harry grinned. "Just trying to figure out why Snape hates me so much." This wasn't merely maintaining cover, Snape's hostility toward Harry in public settings was genuine and strategic. Despite knowing Harry's true abilities and connections, the potion's master maintained the expected antagonism to avoid suspicion from Voldemort/Quirrell. Only in rare, secured meetings did Snape acknowledge Harry's actual status. "He's just nasty to everyone who isn't Slytherin," Ron declared, reaching for more sausages. "Not exactly," Harry countered thoughtfully. "He's consistently hardest on me and Neville. Everyone else gets normal grumpiness." "Well, you are famous," Hermione pointed out pragmatically. "And Neville melted another cauldron yesterday," Ron added. Harry nodded, playing along with the conversation while mentally reviewing his real schedule for the day. Defense against the dark arts with Quirrell would provide another opportunity to observe Voldemort's host directly. Flying lessons would help maintain his cover, deliberately showing talent but not the true extent of his abilities. And tonight, another meeting with Dumbledore to discuss the troll incident and Quirrell's failed attempt to access the stone. The headmaster had been impressed with Harry's restraint in not intervening personally with the troll. "A most mature decision," he'd commented during their brief morning communication via Enchanted Journal. "We must play the long game." And Harry was becoming quite good at games, both short and long-term. Winter descended on Hogwarts, and with it came the Christmas holidays. Most students returned home, leaving the castle nearly empty, perfect for Harry's more sensitive operations. "You're staying at Hogwarts too?" Hermione asked as she packed her trunk. "I thought you'd go home to your relatives." Harry shrugged. "Hogwarts is more home to me than Privet Drive ever was." This, at least, was completely honest. Though the Basilisk court had made his time with the Dursleys tolerable, Harry had never felt at home there. Hogwarts, with its ancient magic and connections to his true heritage, felt right in ways little whinging never could. With Ron also staying behind, his parents visiting Charlie in Romania, Harry maintained regular appearances in Gryffindor Tower while conducting his real business during the abundant free time. The relative privacy allowed for more direct Basilisk involvement in his research. Smaller members of the court occasionally accompanied Harry through the castle's hidden passages, providing insights and protection while remaining unseen. It was during one such excursion, exploring a sealed section of the library's restricted section with Visira, a 6-foot basilisk specialized in detecting dark magic, that Harry made a breakthrough regarding Voldemort's Horcruxes. This text references soul containers created by Herpo the Foul. Harry hissed softly in Parseltongue, carefully turning the fragile pages of a book they discovered behind a false wall. He supposedly hid one in a family heirloom. "The magic leaves traces on the container," Visira observed, her black scales gleaming in the wandlight as she examined the book from Harry's shoulder. "A distinct magical signature that basilisks can detect if in close proximity." Harry looked up sharply. "You could identify a Horcrux by its magical resonance?" "Not specifically as a Horcrux, but as an object containing fragmented human soul energy." "Yes, any court basilisk could distinguish that corruption." This revelation transformed their strategic approach. Rather than searching blindly, Harry could potentially deploy his basilisk network to detect Voldemort's soul containers through their magical signatures. "We need samples," Harry decided. "Something we know contains Voldemort's magic as a reference point." "Quirrell himself would serve," Visira suggested. "The Pretender's essence saturates his host." Harry nodded thoughtfully. "I'll need to get close enough for you to analyze the signature without revealing your presence." That opportunity came sooner than expected. The very next day, Harry accidentally encountered Quirrell in a remote corridor while carrying a stack of books that concealed Basira's small form. "P.P. Potter," Quirrell stammered, his turban slightly askew. "What are you doing in this part of the castle?" "Just returning some books, Professor," Harry replied innocently, deliberately fumbling the stack to prolong the interaction. "Sorry, could you help me with these for a moment?" As Quirrell reluctantly assisted, Basira extended her magical senses from beneath the books, analyzing the dark energy emanating from the professor, particularly from beneath his turban. Signature acquired, she communicated silently to Harry. Distinctive corruption pattern identified. Mission accomplished. Harry thanked Quirrell and continued on his way, noting how the professor's hands trembled slightly when they accidentally touched, and how his scar burned in proximity to the disguised Dark Lord. "It's worse than we thought," Harry informed Dumbledore during their next private meeting in the headmaster's office. Basira confirmed Voldemort's soul is not merely damaged but deliberately fragmented in a specific magical pattern. "The Horcruxes are real." Dumbledore sighed heavily, suddenly looking every one of his many years. "I feared as much, though I'd hoped to be wrong. This explains his unprecedented survival after the killing curse rebounded. My basilisks can detect the magical signature," Harry continued. "We've already begun discreet sweeps of the castle and grounds." "A remarkable advantage," Dumbledore acknowledged. "Though I suspect Tom would not hide his soul pieces in obvious locations." "Agreed. But we can systematically eliminate possibilities while researching likely hiding places based on his history and psychology." Their discussion shifted to immediate concerns: Quirrell's increasingly suspicious behavior, the stone's security, and maintaining Harry's cover as a typical first year. "Your restraint has been admirable," Dumbledore noted. "Particularly given your capabilities." Harry smiled slightly. "I learned patience from creatures who measure time in centuries, Headmaster. Besides, there's strategic value in being underestimated." "Indeed. Though I wonder if we've been too cautious regarding the stone. Perhaps a more proactive approach might be warranted." Harry raised an eyebrow. "You want to use me as bait?" "Not precisely," Dumbledore demurred, though his eyes twinkled with acknowledgement. "Rather, I wonder if allowing Tom to believe you've discovered the stone's location might force his hand before he's fully prepared." "A controlled confrontation," Harry concluded. "With you nearby to intervene if necessary." "Precisely." Harry considered the proposal. "It has merit, but timing is crucial. We need Quirrell desperate enough to make mistakes but not so desperate he abandons all caution. Perhaps after the Easter holidays?" Dumbledore suggested. "By then, end-of-year pressures will be building, and Tom was always somewhat obsessive about finishing projects before term's end." Harry nodded. "I'll discuss it with my court. We'll need contingency plans." As he left Dumbledore's office, Harry reflected on how far their partnership had evolved from that first meeting at Privet Drive. The headmaster now treated him as a genuine strategic ally rather than a child to be protected, a necessary shift given the challenges ahead. The discovery of the Mirror of Eriste during Harry's holiday explorations provided an unexpected window into both his own psyche and Dumbledore's protective strategy for the stone. He'd found the mirror in an unused classroom while mapping lesser-known areas of the castle with Emerald's assistance. The reflection that greeted him was both comforting and disturbing. Harry stood surrounded not only by his parents and family he'd never known, but by his complete Basilisk court, all coexisting harmoniously with human wizards and witches. "A world where all magical beings collaborate without fear or prejudice," he murmured, understanding immediately what the mirror showed. "A noble desire," came Dumbledore's voice from behind him. The headmaster had apparently been observing silently. "And telling." Harry turned. "It shows our deepest desires, I assume." "Indeed. Men have wasted away before it, entranced by what they cannot have." Dumbledore studied Harry thoughtfully. "Your vision is unusually inclusive for one so young." "I was raised by basilisks as much as humans," Harry replied simply. "It changes your perspective on magical cooperation." Their conversation revealed the mirror's ultimate purpose as the final protection for the Philosopher's Stone, an elegant solution that would prevent Voldemort from obtaining it directly. He'll need a proxy, Harry realized. Someone without personal desire for the stone itself. Precisely, Dumbledore confirmed. A significant complication for his plans. The mirror was moved the following day, but the insight it provided into Voldemort's challenges helped refine their strategy for the inevitable confrontation. Spring brought increased activity from both Quirrell and Harry's Basilisk intelligence network. Reports from Snake Scouts positioned throughout Britain indicated disturbing patterns, unexplained disappearances in Albania, dark mark tattoos growing clearer on former Death Eaters, and unusual purchasing patterns of certain potion ingredients associated with body restoration rituals. He grows desperate, Satis observed during a court meeting in the chamber. The stone remains his preferred solution, but he prepares alternatives. Harry nodded, studying the tactical map they'd created, a magical representation of Britain with glowing markers indicating relevant activities and suspected Horcrux locations based on Voldemort's history. Dumbledore believes he'll make his move before term ends, Harry informed the court. I agree. His personality craves symbolic timing, conquering death at the school that represented his first real home, using Harry Potter as an unwitting accomplice. Except you're anything but unwitting, Morgoth noted with grim satisfaction. Precisely. Which gives us the advantage. Harry pointed to specific locations on the map. I want increased surveillance here, and here, places Riddle visited repeatedly according to Dumbledore's intelligence. Potential Horcrux locations. The Basilisks assigned various territories among their network, ensuring comprehensive coverage without depleting the court's presence at Hogwarts. And the confrontation strategy? Nixarath inquired, her ancient eyes studying Harry carefully. Controlled, on our terms. We'll allow Quirrell to believe I've discovered the stone's location through typical first-year adventures. Harry smiled slightly. Ron, Hermione, and I have established a convincing pattern of rule-breaking curiosity that makes this plausible. Indeed, Harry had carefully cultivated authentic friendships with Ron and Hermione while subtly guiding their activities in directions that maintained his cover as an adventurous but not extraordinarily powerful first year. Their encounter with Fluffy, carefully orchestrated by Harry based on Hagrid's predictable loose lips, subsequent research into Nicholas Flamel, and occasional rule-breaking expeditions all contributed to the expected narrative for the boy who lived. When the time comes, Harry continued, Sarathia will remain hidden but nearby during the confrontation. Dumbledore will be positioned to intervene if necessary, but will attempt to resolve the situation without revealing my true capabilities unless absolutely necessary. The court approved this approach, though several basilisks insisted on positioning themselves strategically throughout the castle as backup. Harry agreed, Voldemort's unpredictability warranted every precaution. The opportunity to implement their plan came in late May when Dumbledore was, urgently, called to the Ministry, a transparent ruse that Quirrell clearly orchestrated. He's making his move tonight, Harry informed Ron and Hermione in the common room, maintaining his role as concerned but determined first year. With Dumbledore gone, there's nothing stopping him from stealing the stone. But Harry, we're just first years. Hermione protested. We should tell McGonagall. I tried, Harry lied smoothly. She didn't believe me. This fabrication served multiple purposes, maintaining his cover, ensuring Ron and Hermione would accompany him, providing witnesses to his ordinary abilities, and creating a plausible narrative for later explanations. That evening, they set off for the third-floor corridor. The challenges proceeded exactly as Dumbledore had privately outlined to Harry: Fluffy, Devil's Snare, Flying Keys, the chess set, the troll, Snape's potion puzzle, each allowing Harry to demonstrate normal first-year ingenuity without revealing his true capabilities. When they reached the potion challenge, Harry executed the planned separation. Hermione, you take the potion to go back. Get Ron to the hospital wing, then Owl Dumbledore. I'll go forward and stall Quirrell as long as I can. But Harry, the potion that gets you forward, there's only enough for one person. Then I go alone, Harry said with determined finality. After Hermione's reluctant departure, Harry drank the potion and stepped through the black flames, entering the final chamber where Quirrell stood before the mirror of Eriste. "I wondered if I'd be meeting you here, Potter," Quirrell said without a stutter, confirming what Harry already knew. The nervousness had been an act. "You?" Harry gasped with convincing surprise. "But I thought, Snape, Severus." "Yes, he does seem the type, doesn't he?" Quirrell laughed coldly. "Next to him, who would suspect P.P. Poor, St. stuttering P. Professor Quirrell?" The confrontation unfolded according to Harry's expectations, Quirrell revealing his true nature, attempting to use the mirror, and eventually unwrapping his turban to reveal Voldemort's face grotesquely embedded in the back of his head. "Harry Potter." The face whispered, red eyes gleaming with hatred. "See what I have become. Mere shadow and vapor, forced to share another's body. But there have always been those willing to let me into their hearts and minds." "You're the one who killed my parents," Harry stated, forcing anger and fear into his voice while mentally communicating with Sarathia, positioned in a hidden passage behind the chamber walls. "Ready, young king?" The ancient basilisk confirmed silently. "Yes. Remember, no lethal force unless absolutely necessary. We need information more than vengeance." Voldemort's lipless mouth curved into a terrible smile. "Kill him," he ordered Quirrell. The professor lunged forward, hands outstretched toward Harry's throat. As planned, Harry allowed the contact, knowing exactly what would happen when Quirrell's Voldemort-possessed flesh touched his skin, still protected by his mother's sacrificial magic. The effect was immediate and agonizing for both of them. Quirrell screamed in pain as his hands blistered and burned. Harry feigned shocked surprise while allowing his mother's protection to manifest visibly, golden light emanating from his skin where Quirrell touched him. "Kill him! Kill him!" Voldemort shrieked. Harry decided it was time to end the charade. As Quirrell advanced again, Harry deliberately grabbed the professor's face with both hands, allowing the protection to work while silently activating a containment spell taught by Nixarath, one designed specifically to trap disembodied spirits. Ancient Parselmagic words formed in Harry's mind, flowing through him into the spell matrix. Green-gold energy formed a dome around them as Quirrell's body crumbled to ash, and Voldemort's wraith emerged screaming in fury. "You think this will hold me, Potter?" the spectral form hissed, throwing itself against the magical barrier. "I cannot be killed. I cannot be contained." "Perhaps not forever," Harry acknowledged, dropping all pretense of being an ordinary first year. "But long enough for this." Harry extended his hand, and from his expanded magical core, strengthened by 5 years of Basilisk Covenant magic, he cast a spell few adult wizards could manage, Legilimens Spectral. The spell, designed specifically for non-corporeal entities, allowed Harry to briefly connect with Voldemort's fractured mind. He had mere seconds to extract crucial information before the connection became dangerous. Images flashed between them, a diary, a ring, a locket, a cup, something related to Ravenclaw, his snake Nagini, each pulsing with the same dark energy Visira had identified. Locations flickered through the connection: a manor house, a cave by the sea, a bank vault deep underground. Voldemort screamed in rage, realizing what Harry was doing. "Impossible." "You cannot." "I can," Harry replied calmly. "And I have." With the information secured, Harry released the Legilimency connection and reinforced the containment spell with a final burst of energy before deliberately collapsing to the stone floor, just as Dumbledore burst into the chamber. The timing was perfect. To anyone watching, it appeared Harry had simply held off Quirrell through his mother's protection until Dumbledore arrived. The headmaster would banish Voldemort's wraith, actually releasing it from Harry's containment in a controlled direction, and the official narrative would remain intact. "Harry! Harry!" Dumbledore called, kneeling beside him with convincing concern. Through barely open eyes, Harry winked once to signal success. The headmaster's brief smile confirmed understanding before his expression returned to appropriate gravitas for the situation. "Clever boy," Dumbledore murmured, ostensibly checking Harry's pulse but actually casting diagnostic spells to ensure he wasn't truly injured. Rest now. It's over. But they both knew it was only beginning. The hospital wing provided perfect isolation for Harry to process what he'd learned while maintaining his cover story. Madame Pomfrey kept visitors at bay while Harry communicated with his Basilisk court through Emerald, who had smuggled himself into the infirmary hidden in Harry's pajamas. 6 Horcruxes, Harry whispered to the garden snake in Parseltongue, confident the hospital wing's privacy wards would prevent eavesdropping. Plus the main soul piece we encountered. 7 fragments total. The magical number of power, Emerald hissed, transmitting the information back to Sarathia and the court. Locations? Some clear, some obscured. He was fighting my intrusion. Harry closed his eyes, sorting through the stolen memories. The diary is with Lucius Malfoy. The ring at the Gaunt Shack. The locket, somewhere dark and wet with inferi, likely the cave Dumbledore suspected. The cup in Bellatrix Lestrange's Gringotts vault. Something of Ravenclaws here at Hogwarts. And his snake, though that's a future plan, not yet implemented. This intelligence transformed their strategic position. Rather than hunting blindly, they now had specific targets and locations to investigate. The court will dispatch search teams immediately, Emerald reported after consulting with Sathis. Morgatha's mountain basilisks are already en route to investigate the Gaunt property. Oralix's Mediterranean scouts will examine the coastal caves. Sarathia will begin systematic sweeps of Hogwarts focusing on Ravenclaw-associated areas. Harry nodded approvingly. Perfect. I'll coordinate with Dumbledore once I'm released from here. 3 days later, Madame Pomfrey finally declared Harry fit to leave the hospital wing. He found Dumbledore waiting for him just outside. A word in my office, Harry, the headmaster suggested pleasantly. I believe we have much to discuss before the term ends. In the privacy of Dumbledore's tower office, they compared notes on the confrontation and its aftermath. Your performance was flawless, Dumbledore acknowledged. Ms. Granger and Mr. Weasley saw exactly what we intended, a brave but normal first year succeeding through determination and your mother's protection. And the stone? Harry asked. Nicholas and I have decided it should be destroyed. At 665, he and Perenelle have had a full life. Harry nodded. Probably wise. Such temptations only create more Voldemorts. Speaking of whom, what did you learn during your brief connection? Dumbledore leaned forward intently. Harry shared the Horcrux information, watching the headmaster's expression shift from grave concern to cautious hope as the specific targets were identified. This is remarkable intelligence, Harry. Years of research compressed into seconds of connection. Legilimency against a wraith is risky but efficient, Harry acknowledged. And he never expected it from a first year. The Basilisk Covenant gave me both the power and protection to attempt it. Your court is already investigating these locations. Yes. Discreetly. Harry hesitated, then added, there's something else. Something I glimpsed but couldn't fully understand. A connection between us, between my scar and his fragmented soul. Dumbledore paled slightly. I had feared this possibility. The night he gave you that scar, when the killing curse rebounded. There's reason to believe a fragment of his soul attached itself to the only living thing in the room. Me. Harry's hand rose unconsciously to his forehead. I'm a Horcrux too. Not intentionally made, and perhaps not stable like the others, but, yes, I believe so. Harry absorbed this revelation with remarkable calm. My basilisk suspected something similar. Visira detected the same corrupt signature in my scar that she found in Quirrell. You don't seem surprised, Dumbledore observed. I've suspected for years that my Parseltongue ability came from more than just coincidence. Harry shrugged. This explains much. Most children would be horrified to learn they carry a piece of Voldemort's soul. I'm not most children, Harry replied simply. And understanding the problem is the first step towards solving it. My court already researches methods to remove soul fragments without destroying the container. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. Such knowledge exists. Basilisks predate Wizard Society, Headmaster. Their magical knowledge includes areas wizards have forgotten or never discovered. Harry smiled slightly. Nixarath believes cleansing rituals from the Covenant's early days might be adapted for Horcrux extraction. Their discussion continued for hours, planning summer research priorities, Horcrux hunting strategies, and preparing for Voldemort's inevitable return attempts. He'll be more cautious now, Harry predicted. He knows I'm not as helpless as he believed. But that works to our advantage. Fear makes people predictable. Indeed. Though Tom's predictability has always been confined to certain patterns of behavior rather than specific actions. Dumbledore sighed. He'll seek another body, another path to restoration. All while we systematically destroy his soul anchors, Harry added. It's a race, but one where we now have the advantage. As their meeting concluded, Dumbledore regarded Harry with a mixture of pride and sadness. You've handled this year's challenges admirably, Harry. Far better than anyone could reasonably expect from someone your age. I've had excellent teachers, Harry replied, thinking of his Basilisk court. And a worthy cause. Indeed. But perhaps this summer, you might consider allowing yourself some time to simply be 11. Harry laughed. I'll try, Headmaster. Though basilisks make demanding babysitters. The end-of-year feast brought House Point's drama that Harry found almost comically trivial compared to his actual concerns. Still, he played along enthusiastically when Dumbledore awarded last-minute points to Gryffindor for the stone adventure, securing the House Cup by the narrowest of margins. Bit theatrical, wasn't it? Harry commented privately to Hermione as Gryffindor celebrated around them. She looked surprised. What do you mean? The last-minute points. Almost like it was planned for maximum dramatic effect. Ron, overhearing, laughed. Who cares? We won. And did you see Malfoy's face? Harry smiled and joined the celebration, compartmentalizing as he'd become so adept at doing. Part of him genuinely enjoyed the camaraderie and simple joy of his housemates. Another part remained focused on the intelligence reports from his Basilisk network, the Horcrux hunt already underway, and the long game against Voldemort. On the Hogwarts Express returning to London, Harry sat with Ron and Hermione, discussing summer plans with appropriate enthusiasm while mentally reviewing his actual agenda, continuing Horcrux research with his court, developing extraction methods for the soul fragment in his scar, and preparing for whatever new challenges Voldemort might present in the coming year. You must come and stay this summer, Ron insisted as they approached London. Both of you. I'll send an owl. Thanks, I'll need something to look forward to, Harry replied sincerely. His public appearances at the Burrow would need to be carefully timed around his actual work, but maintaining these friendships remained genuinely important to him. As the train pulled into platform 9 3/4, Harry spotted Uncle Vernon waiting with obvious discomfort among the magical families. The Dursleys remained necessary cover, though Harry would actually spend most of his summer at various basilisk sanctuaries. See you soon. Harry called to his friends as he pushed his trolley toward his uncle. Vernon grunted a greeting, eyeing Harry suspiciously. No funny business this summer, boy. Those friends of yours staying away from the house. Relax, Uncle Vernon, Harry replied with a faint smile. Everything's under control. And for perhaps the first time since Voldemort had marked him as an infant, Harry truly believed it was. The Basilisk Covenant had transformed him from victim to active participant in his own destiny. Knowledge of the Horcruxes provided a clear strategic objective. Allies like Dumbledore and his growing circle of trusted adults offered support without control. Most importantly, Harry Potter had found his own path, neither light nor dark, but balance between tradition and innovation, power and wisdom, ambition and compassion. The Serpent King had completed his first year at Hogwarts. The Chamber's secrets had been reclaimed for their original purpose. And the true war against Voldemort had only just begun. As Harry climbed into the Dursleys' car, he felt Emerald shift against his wrist beneath his sleeve and smiled. The Basilisk court awaited his return, ready to continue their work. The board was set. The pieces were moving. And Harry Potter, the boy who lived, the heir of Slytherin, the king of basilisks, was finally playing the game on his own terms. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.